Okay, we're now live. Sorry for the minute delay there, everybody. The Ben Joravsky Show for your Wednesday, May 1st. Ben, happy May.
Happy May.
Oh, that was nice. Your Ben Joravsky Show for Wednesday, May 1st is moments away, but before we get into it, we would like to thank the following unions for bringing back the Ben Joravsky Show. First up, it's the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 in District 8, the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150, and the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9. Thank you once again to those unions for jumping on board with us, bringing back the Ben Joravsky Show. And, of course, today's program is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. The Ben Joravsky Show starts now. It is Wednesday, May 1st. And live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, legendary Chicago journalist Monroe Anderson will return. We welcome host of Humanity in the Headlines, Atiba Buchanan, and 20th Ward Alderwoman, Jeanette Taylor. And now your host. What is that?
It's an organ.
Oh, Chicago Reader columnist, Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this Sugar Pie Honey Bunch Wednesday. And here's why. So, as we head into the presidential campaign season, getting very close to Iowa, it's just on the horizon. See it over there, D?
Oh, yeah.
That's the Iowa caucus, just on the horizon. Anyway, as we head into the presidential primary season, I find myself being all analytical and everything about what's going down. I'm being very thorough, very responsible in my assessment of the candidates. I'm sifting through their resume and their policy papers and all their platform stands. I'm methodically, systematically reading it all like I'm a scientist, objectively studying each and everything they represent. I'm like Madame Curie in the lab. That's a scientist, D.
A nerd.
I'm going through these records to determine which candidate would be best suited to be our next president of the United States. And then, out of nowhere, an old voice from the not-so-distant past reemerges, and just like that, all my careful scientific scrutiny gets thrown out the window, like the $2.3 billion may around throughout the window of your property tax dollars on those two mega deals. Oh, yeah. Have not quite turned the page on that one yet.
What a throwback.
All right.
2 weeks ago.
Yes, indeed. That voice from the past was, of course, President Barack Obama, and he was basically urging me to cast my vote for the candidate on this show we affectionately call Grandpa Joe. Play it, D.
This is an extraordinary man with an extraordinary career in public service. Somebody who has devoted his entire professional life to service to this country. He revitalized American manufacturing as the head of our middle-class task force. He fought to make college more affordable. He suited up for our cancer moonshot, giving hope to millions of Americans. Joe's candid counsel has made me the president. He led our It's On Us campaign against campus sexual assault. He championed landmark legislation to protect women from violence. He led our efforts to combat gun violence. He could not have been a more effective partner in the progress that we've made.
Sorry, folks. I know that yesterday Maya and Sam Holloway ripped into Biden, and I know that all my friends of the lefty persuasion have been brilliant in their analysis of how Joe Biden has a wretched position on so many issues, like the crime bill from back in the 90s. He was wrong on Anita Hill. But then I hear Obama's mellifluous baritone singing Joe's praise. And folks, I can't help myself. I start melting like M&Ms that I clutch too tightly in my hand. I start thinking, say what you will about Grandpa Joe. He was so loyal to Barack, and he was Barack's wingman when times were hard. And yes, good old Joe, stolid and solid, the meat and potatoes white guy from Scranton, Pennsylvania. He stood by Barack Obama in his darkest hours. And folks, it's like those moments when I'm in a polling booth, all set to vote for the Green Party candidate, and it's like the skies open and the hands of FDR come out of the sky and take my hand and make it punch Democratic. People, I'm fighting it, but I feel like that guy in the old song by the Four Tops, Sugar Pie, Honey Bunch. I can't help myself. We got a great show today, everybody. Monroe Anderson, he is so fired up. There's so much Trump news out there. He's trying to stay focused on it. Stay focused, Monroe. We got so much Trump. Barr is testifying. The Trump's defying the Democrats' request to turn over information. Deutsche Bank is under pressure from the Trumps not to turn over information. So much it's so much Trump talk. In fact, it's so much Trump talk. At 2 o'clock, we're bringing in Atiba Buchanan, radio show host. This dude knows Trump. He says he knows Trump like Monroe does. So we're going to have...
Whoa. I hope he doesn't have a filthy mouth like Monroe does.
Monroe says it's not fair. He doesn't swear as much as, say, Maya. Okay? Boy, I'll tell you what, Maya was on fire yesterday, wasn't she, man?
She's turned into a sailor, too.
A salty sailor. Anyway, we got Atiba Buchanan talking some more Trump at 2 o'clock. And then at 2:30, we'll shift gears a little bit. Go to the local stuff with Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor, recently elected from the 20th Ward. The pride and joy of the 20th Ward, Jeanette Taylor. She was on the local school council at Mollison Elementary. The things I know, Dr. D. Anyway, what all this means is plenty of political talk is just ahead of us. But before we do any of that, the young man from Alton has the national news.
My name's Dennis. How's it going? There's days where you surprise us, Ben, with a word like mellifluous.
Yeah, mellifluous. Mellifluous. Oh. Hi, I'm Barack Obama. Do your Barack Obama invitation for the people, Dennis.
Joe Biden, amazing. He's great. He gives kids treats. And they say he stands a little too close to people, but it means well.
Can you do your Lisa Simpson imitation?
I don't do Lisa Simpson.
Sorry, okay.
It's Marge. I do a good Marge.
Okay.
All right, it's the middle of the day. Let's talk about the national news happening this afternoon. Just one day after it was revealed that special counsel Robert Mueller sent Attorney General William Barr a letter objecting to Barr's heavily redacted portrayal of Mueller's report on the Russia investigation. Attorney General William Barr testified this morning before the Senate Judiciary Committee. According to Mueller, in a letter obtained by the Washington Post, Barr's summary, quote, did not fully capture the context, nature, and substance of this office's work and conclusions. Let's cover some highlights of the testimony today. Barr says he offered special counsel Robert Mueller the chance to review Barr's letter summarizing his report. He declined, Barr said. Barr said he was frankly surprised when Mueller told him he would not reach a conclusion on whether Donald Trump committed obstruction of justice. Here's the quote from Barr, quote, we did not understand exactly why the special counsel was not reaching a decision, adding that Mueller did not clarify. He said that he and Deputy AG Rod Rosenstein, the guy who just announced he's resigning, they decided they would reach a conclusion on their own.
Yeah. You'd be surprised about that conclusion.
More quotes from Barr here. Quote, it's a binary decision. Is there enough evidence to show a crime, and do we believe a crime has been committed? We don't conduct criminal investigations just to collect information and put it to the public. We do so to make a decision.
Oh, my God, folks.
You're not buying this.
I am not buying any. By the way, I'm waiting for all the people in the Chicagoland area who are outraged, absolutely outraged by the miscarriage of justice at the Cook County State's Attorney and regarding the relatively minor offense committed by Justice Smollett to join me in my crusade to hold Donald Trump accountable for the apparent crimes he committed in terms of wheeling and dealing with the Russians to snatch that election from Hillary Clinton and bury all the evidence, obstructing justice, if you will. Come on, police chiefs from the south suburbs, come on and join me. Yeah. Man, I'll tell you what, Mueller did kind of duck and dodge that one day. He didn't come up, well, what was his official? Oh, well, we don't believe we can indict sitting presidents, so we're not going to recommend an indictment. I think that's his justification. But he did kind of duck it, throw it to Barr, and Barr was only too happy to wimp out on behalf of Donald Trump. Folks, I know if this is sort of like, I'm reminded of O.J. Simpson in the 1990s, Walking Free, and it's the same thing, only it's Donald John Trump walking free in 2019.
Democratic Senators Dianne Feinstein, Patrick Leahy, and our very own Democratic Illinois Senator Dick Durbin.
Okay.
They all grilled Barr today, but the exchange between Senator Sheldon Whitehouse and Attorney Barr today gives you a good idea of how this whole thing went down. Very ducky and dodgy, I'd say. Whitehouse asked about Barr's claim that there was, quote, spying against Donald Trump's campaign. Here's Barr's response, quote, I'm not going to abjure the use of the word spying, noting he previously worked for the CIA. I don't think the word spying has any pejorative connotation at all. Spying is a good English word that, in fact, doesn't have synonyms, explaining that it encompasses all forms of covert intelligence collection. I'm not suggesting any pejorative, and I use it frequently.
What?
Very ducky and dodgy, this thing.
Oh,
today.
my God. What? I'll tell you what. That guy should go to work for Rahm Emanuel. That is like some Emanuel twisting and turning. Yeah, you pick spying because that fits into Trump's narrative that there was something illicit going on by the FBI. Spying. It was a very sophisticated choice on your part. Don't pretend like it was like the only word that even remotely applied. You could have said investigated. A lot different than spying. Investigation has, less of a pejorative overtone. Come on, Barr. You knew what you were doing. I'll tell you what. You know what? What do you say about Rahm?
Oh, he's smart and you're not.
I think Barr belongs to the same camp. It's the Rahm camp.
So that's going on, and our guest, Monroe Anderson, he's going to be talking more about...
and Atiba Buchanan.
And Atiba. They're going to be all talking about William Barr and his testimony today.
Yes, indeed.
So we're going to move on, and per usual, our president has been exposing his deep psychological problems to the world on Twitter. Yeah, it turns out his supporters love it, though. Seriously, I have 6 tweets from just this morning from Donald Trump, and Ben Joravsky, you'd better believe that he is hitting all those 2020 campaign points in these tweets. We got Obama bad, Trump good, build the wall, Democrats bad, Trump good, fake news, and of course,
no collusion.
No collusion. Those really are those going to be the campaign points.
Yeah, no, Donnie is fired up, man, because he knows they're coming after him.
But it seems, though, that former Vice President and now 2020 Democratic POTUS candidate, the man we just heard about on that commercial from Barack Obama, Joe Biden, he struck a nerve with Donald this week.
Oh, boy, did he ever. Trump doesn't like Biden.
After a hefty donation total of $6 million in 24 hours, and with endorsements like that big one from the firefighters union on Monday, it's obvious Donald Trump's a little salty. Just listen to this tweet from Trump himself this morning regarding the firefighters union, and you tell me, all right? Cue the ukulele. All right, here's the tweet from Trump this morning.
Yeah.
I've done more for
Let's start over here.
Yeah.
I've done more for firefighters than this dues-sucking union will ever do.
Oh, wow.
And I get paid 0. All caps, 0. Exclamation mark.
All right, I'll tell you what he's done for firefighters, if you're out there. Here's what he's done. His tax break for the wealthiest people has starved government of the money it needs to operate. And guess what? Guess what's one of the operations that government funds with tax dollars? Pensions for firefighters. I'll stand up for your pensions. Donald John Trump won't. So when you think about how you finance government, the ramifications of those tax cuts go all the way down to the local level. Less money from the feds, less money there is for cities, and less money is for states. More pressure on cities and state like Chicago to raise their property taxes. We're already delinquent on some of the payments we should have been making to those pension funds. So when he says he stands up for firefighters, he may play to some of the prejudice as 1 or 2 firefighters may have. Sam Holloway says it's many more than 1 or 2. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. But he sure is not doing much for your pocketbook, firefighters. There. That's what I say about that.
Now, of course, we will keep you posted on these stories as today's program rolls along. Like I said, Monroe Anderson is coming in just moments to discuss more about Barr's testimony. Let's read the live stream chat for a minute. We got just like 3 messages here. Okay. Our friend Steven says, Dennis, I think you should add some drum fills to your board. How about this? This good? Let's hear it. Oh, wait.
Oh, hell, I got a million of them.
Oh, like that?
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right, I'll add it to that. All right, Matrix Illuminati. Holy crap, that's a spooky name. Scared of this person.
Matrix Illuminati.
Get a picture on your... Oh, my. Get a picture on your thing. You're freaking me out. Matrix Illuminati says, hi, Ben and Dr. D.
Oh,
hi, how's it going? Matrix Illuminati, not a doctor. How's it going? And I can't pronounce that name. If the tax returns omit, you must acquit, says Alcala. Probably pronounced that.
Yeah, Johnny Cochran fan. Blast from the past. I like that. Yeah, he's picking up on the fact that Donald Trump has taken a page from Johnny Cochran, trying to get himself off the way Johnny Cochran got O.J. Simpson off.
All right, so let's put the national news aside for a minute. Benny J, you ready to find out what's going on in Chicago and or Illinois this afternoon?
I was born ready.
Love that answer. Fantastic answer, especially at this time, because coming up after this short little break, people, we are going to find out what else is news.
I cannot wait. My favorite time of the day. The doctor plucks that little trick out of his little sleeve. We'll see what it is when we return.
It's Chicagoland's adult entertainment playground. It's the world-famous Admiral Theater, 3940 West Lawrence Avenue. The Admiral is homegrown from Chicago, and it's the most conveniently located club in all of the city. 15 minutes from the O'Hare Airport in downtown Chicago Loop. Voted Chicago's best strip club, the Admiral has showgirls galore and a variety of adult entertainment shows. The world-famous Admiral Theater, open every day from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. 3940 West Lawrence Avenue. For events, showtime, and other information, visit AdmiralX.com. Must be 18 years of age or older to enter.
Did you know that 40% of the people in Illinois opt to be cremated? Well, it's true. And Chicagoland Cremation Options honors their wishes by providing cremation services directly to the general public. Chicagoland Cremation Options provides an affordable, ethical, and easy cremation arrangement, whether in person or online. Save thousands and streamline the process by going directly to Chicagoland Cremation Options. It's a family-owned business operated by my good friend, Douglas Klein. Here's how you reach them. ChicagolandCremationOptions.com. One more time, ChicagolandCremationOptions.com.
Hey, thanks, Ben. Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show. Live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Oh, yes, indeed. We're live from the Sun-Times. By the way, before we get to the local news, I got to tell you this. I think I may have already mentioned this. Everybody who knows me knows I love Gary Owen, the comedian. And, D, I'm really sophisticated and cool. I'm kind of like a millennial.
Mellfluous.
Did I tell you I was on Instagram? Yes, I'm on Instagram.
Wow.
Yeah, whoa. And I follow Gary Owen. He had a very funny bit on Instagram. Gary Owen is a comedian, everybody. I think he's funny. Anyway, he has this bit about Matthew Bowling. Matthew Bowling is an 18-year-old from Texas. His nickname is White Lightning. He's the fastest high school runner in the country right now. Here's the trick. He's a white guy. So Gary Owen is taking great delight, pointing, hey, the fastest guy in the country right now is a white guy. And like Snoop Dogg's weighing. I guess Snoop Dogg and Gary Owen are really, hey, how come Snoop Dogg's not following me on Instagram? That's what Snoop Dogg's like, hey, send him down to Jamaica, see how fast
I love the Ben Joravsky Show.
Oh, yeah.
Is that your Snoop Dogg?
That went better.
Anyway, it's pretty funny. Gary Owen is just so proud. Matthew Bowling, White Lightning. Folks, you may not have known this, but back in Alton, Illinois, they used to call Dr. D White Lightning because he was fast.
No one called me that. Pretty slow.
All right.
Slow, chubby white guy. All right, we're about to find out what's going on locally. It's time for What Else is News. And in case you weren't sure, the honeymoon is for sure over for Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. He's now been in office for over 100 days. The former governor is selling his house in Winnetka and getting the hell out of here. And our friends in Illinois of the conservative persuasion have their first slab of Pritzker red meat. Toiletgate.
Oh, yeah, I knew this was coming, yeah.
Yes, the time citizen J.B. Pritzker purposely ripped out the toilets in his Gold Coast mansion, claimed it uninhabitable, and saved over $300,000 in property taxes. Now, so far, the main complaints from Illinois Republicans since Pritzker has been in office stem from his graduated income tax plan. We're going to get taxed to death. We've heard it a million times. But honestly, it's still too early to tell with that one. These right-wingers may have a point, but they're more than likely just being right-wingers screaming at the sky. Like I said, too early to tell, Ben Joravsky. But Toiletgate, Toiletgate is ripe for the picking. And here's a sign that the Bruce Rauner days are over, by the way. Illinois Republicans may have a good point for once.
Well, let me tell you something right now, dude. We've been talking about this extensively on this show. In fact, big Tom McNamee was sitting right there in that chair, editorial board editor of the Sun-Times. Thursday, we were talking about it with him. We talked about it with Rob Martwick last week. This has been a favorite topic of ours on this show. Is J.B. Pritzker hypocritical to call for a hike on the taxes of the wealthiest people in Illinois? One more time, it's a hike on the wealthiest people of Illinois. If at the same time, he and his wife were kind of a little tricky there by yanking out those toilets in their Gold Coast mansion and asking for a deduction on the property tax. I personally have been raising this issue since the 2018 campaign, D. We were wrestling with this when we were back at that other station, the name of which excludes me. I mean, I cannot think of the name of it right now, but it'll come to me. Eludes me, not excludes. Eludes me at the moment, whatever it was called.
Big words today.
I know, man. I read the dictionary before it came in. So anyway, this has been an issue that the Democrats have had to deal with. And now I presume that the Republicans, having listened to the show, and you're welcome, Republicans, for getting all your information from our show, are weighing in. So let's hear what some of the Republicans have to say.
All right. Well, Ben, we may need to check how many downloads we're getting downstate, like you said here. I think some Illinois Republicans have been listening to the show. Toiletgate resurfaced when WBEZ Radio broke that Pritzker and his wife were under federal criminal investigation for removing toilets from their Gold Coast mansion.
By the way, time out. 10 trivia points. What WBEZ reporter broke that?
Dan Mihalopoulos.
Nope.
Okay, who is it?
Dave McKinney.
Oh, Dave McKinney.
By the way, if you want to hear Dave McKinney on the Ben Joravsky Show, you can hear Miles has entered the room. Miles has entered. Always love when Miles enters the room. Dave McKinney. When was he on?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Anyway, go back to your story. Dave McKinney.
Thank you. We've diverted like 3 times. Despite paying back the $331,000, Pritzker insisted his family did nothing wrong. On Tuesday, Pritzker was asked the obvious, dude, if you did nothing wrong, then why did you give the money back? Here's the response from Pritzker. Quote, "We simply wanted to avoid distraction during the course of the campaign.
Yeah.
As I say, any review of this will show the rules were followed. During the campaign, it was clear that people were trying to make this a political issue, so we just wanted to get it out of the way." Ben, what are your thoughts on Pritzker's response?
Well, my thoughts on Pritzker's response, it's pretty lame. I thought that they should have refrained from pulling the toilets out and then seeking a tax break. I was saying this over a year ago. And I just don't. It's what do they call that? Penny wise and pound foolish.
There we go.
And I just figured a guy who could afford to spend $170 million running his campaign for governor should be able to afford $330,000 or whatever he would have made up what he had to pay for the property taxes. So I just feel that he hurt himself. And he was just a little too slick for his own good in that one.
Well, if you were to ask a Republican state rep out of Edwardsville, Illinois, by the way, your very own producer Dennis used to live in Edwardsville, Illinois.
I did not know that.
Yeah, in an apartment there.
Okay.
But if you were to ask
I
Republicans...
heard it was the party apartment.
Oh, what's
I heard, man. Woo! By the way, when he was down in Edwardsville, you know what they called him, folks? White lightning.
Nobody called me that. But if you were to ask Republican state rep Jason Plummer, he'd say JB's response is hogwash. Here's the quote from Plummer. By the way, leave it to a plumber to call out toilet jokes.
I was going to say, did he get a pick because of his last name to do this?
Here's the quote from Plummer, quote, "You're going to have people talking about other folks need to pay their fair share. Other folks need to carry an even heavier tax burden. But then there's these various schemes to avoid taxes, and I find that somewhat hypocritical and very concerning." Ben Joravsky, I know we've talked about it several times on the program, but does Jason have a point? Is this a bit hypocritical of the governor?
No, it's not hypocritical of the governor at all, and I think Jason knows that, and they're just looking for talking points and struggling. I said this before, it's going to be a hard sell for a governor, a Democratic governor, who has got the tax break by yanking out the toilets, to turn around and ask for a rate increase on the wealthiest people, because the wealthiest people are going to fight back, and you just gave them a weapon to use. And I really don't believe that there's a direct correlation between one and the other. On the one hand, we should move to more progressive forms of taxation to fund government. I was just talking about this with Donald Trump cutting federal taxes, putting more pressure on all the rest of us to finance our pension obligations. That we were just talking about that with the firefighters. And so I give Pritzker credit for trying to raise the taxes on the wealthiest people. And if Plummer wanted to address the issue, or any Republican wanted to address the issue, he would concentrate on the merits, pro or con, on whether the wealthiest people should pay a greater portion of the property taxes. But since they don't want to have that discussion, instead they're going to try to distract us with Toiletgate.
Here's Illinois Republican State Rep Charlie Meyer, quote, "If it turns out that he's been trying not to pay taxes of his own while trying to raise them on everyone else, it would be really sad."
Sad? Is that what it would be? Is that the word he came up with?
State Rep Chris Miller said, quote, "It just seems like justice doesn't get dealt out very often when it comes to people with money, power, and prestige like the governor."
Yeah, okay, and people with money, power, and prestige are the ones you're trying to protect, Miller, or whatever. Was that Miller who said that? With your phony arguments.
Chris Miller.
Yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, it's one thing to join the bandwagon to get Pritzker to pay his taxes on his Gold Coast mansion, and I appreciate you weighing in to try to raise more money for our cash-starved schools, et cetera, Representative Miller. And it's another thing to do it statewide. When Pritzker's doing the right thing with his tax plan, you shouldn't attack him for doing the wrong thing unless it's all about your attempt to divert the public. It's already easy to divert attention from a crucial issue of who pays what to fund our government. I think that's what they're up to, young man.
Chris Miller, apparently listen to the show. Head over to the live stream chat and weigh in with your response there. Making her first appearance on the brand new Ben Joravsky Show, Illinois State Rep and former Republican gubernatorial primary candidate Jeannie Ives said it definitely calls into question his wanting to raise taxes on everyone else when he cheats on his own tax bill.
Jeannie Ives, another big listener to the Ben Joravsky Show. It took her a while to weigh in on this one, you know.
And finally, it's a frequent pattern with Republicans here. Here's where one Republican jumps the shark and ruins it for the rest of them. Illinois State Rep Alan Skillicorn had to take their somewhat valid point way too far and make everyone in Illinois who's a Republican look insane. Quote, "I hope Governor Pritzker and his wife get a pair of shiny new handcuffs when this is done."
All right, Skillicorn, yeah, finding his inner Trump. Lock him up. I'll say this. Let's cut a deal, Skillicorn. I will support a federal investigation or a criminal investigation to J.B. Pritzker's taxes when you support one into Donald Trump and hiding all that money in Deutsche Bank that we can't see. When you insist that Donald Trump reveal his income taxes, when you reveal that Donald Trump reveals all his little memorandums and emails with his lawyers who were scheming to conceal where he was getting the money that he obtained and how much money he has, that we can talk about having an investigation into J.B. Pritzker. Until then, I think you're the hypocrite. That's what I think.
Ooh, slam. I know you guys listen to the show.
They get all their material from me. I mean, it took them a year. We've only been saying this for a year, D. And finally the Republicans go, you know, that guy Ben's got a good point up there. Except they turn it upside down and use it to undercut the point I want to make. But
so anything else you'd like to get out there about our Republican friends here in Illinois?
A bunch of hypocrites. Can't come up with their own material, stealing my stuff. Anything else?
Whoa, man, he's got some beef, guys. Yeah. All right, so there you are. Just like that, you're now in the know of what's going on in Illinois. And now you will have an answer the next time someone asks you, hey, what else is news?
All right, let me tell you something. What? All right, I'm going to tell you something. That Matthew Bowling, the White Lightning from Texas, that's me doing my Matthew Bowling running imitation. And Matthew Arnold, the great poet from England in the 19th century. And Matthew Purdy, a kid I used to roommate with. Used to be my roommate. Anyway, they all agree. You did a great job. Give yourself a raise. Take it out of petty cash. We'll be right back.
Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you by the Chicago Sun-Times. For the latest in Chicago and Illinois news, sports, weather, and the latest in national news from a real Chicago frame of mind and real Chicago writers, check out the Chicago Sun-Times. Read the daily paper or online at chicago.suntimes.com. And hey, if you have a little extra cash, subscribe. And by the Chicago Reader. For a deeper dive in the daily Chicago news and for all of what's going on in this city, you gotta read The Reader. Music, arts and culture, film, extensive event calendars, concert listings, and more, including weekly political columns from writers like Maya Dukmasova and, yes, our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader is free in newsstands and at chicagoreader.com. That's chicagoreader.com.
Hey, everybody, what you're about to hear are the piano stylings of Jeff Manuel. Man, and listen to Jeff go. Jeff Manuel has been playing piano around Chicago for years. He's played for conventions, for celebrities, played in basement bars with blues bands. He's played at prestigious social clubs, fine restaurants, and in the intimacy of private homes. Book Jeff Manuel at jeffemanuelpianist.com. Don't worry, I'll spell his name at the end of this commercial. You know what Chicago Magazine said? They said that Jeff Manuel is, quote, as comfortable with Chopin as he is with Cole Porter. He's excellent and his performance is joyous. He offers an elegant stream of compositions and interpretations that entertains the mind but won't hurt the ears. To hear more of Jeff Manuel's work and to book Jeff for your next event, go to jeffmanuelpianist.com. I'm going to spell it out for you, people. Jeff, M as in Mary, A, N as in Nancy, UELPIANIST.com. Take it away, Jeff Manuel.
Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show. Benny J, take it away.
All right, I will take it away. And guess who's in the studio? Do you know who's in the studio for 10 trivia points? Oh, wait. Now we have a camera so everybody can see. The legendary Monroe Anderson is in the studio.
You have to have visuals to see it.
Right, there he is, right there. And you know what that means? It means it's Wednesday and it's time to talk Trump, and more Trump with our Trump expert, Monroe Anderson. And you interrupted your watching of the Barr testimony to come on, so I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no, it was difficult pulling myself away. It's such a comedy of errors.
All right. William Barr, of course, is the Attorney General that Donald Trump in his infinite wisdom appointed to replace Jeff Sessions, right?
Yes.
And William Barr is on, is it a Senate or congressional? It's a congressional House of Representatives
No, this
hearing.
is the Senate today.
Senate today.
The
All
House
right.
is tomorrow.
Tomorrow, you're right.
Which he may not show up for.
Okay, talk about everything.
Okay. He doesn't want to show up. They're still fighting it out. He doesn't want to show up to the House hearings tomorrow because the Democrats will be in charge of it. And the Democrats want to have staffers question him, not representatives, simply because the staffers know what's going on. And the representatives are mainly just getting their 15 seconds of TV exposure.
Mm-hmm. So in other words, the staffers are the geeks in the back room who just like obsessively pour over all the documents and really know.
Yeah, they're lawyers and they know how to talk and what questions to ask. And plus, with staffers doing the questioning, then you have, instead of the 5 minutes,
mm-hmm.
which they always run out of course, when they're talking, particularly with Barr, who filibusters through 4.5 minutes.
Yes, he does. He's pretty good at that, yeah.
Exactly. So what they want to do is have the staffers and have them do half-an-hour blocks.
Oh, and he's resisting that one.
He said he's not going to do it. If that's how it's going to go, he's not coming.
Wow,
tomorrow.
I'll tell you. All right, let's start with what the issue is on the table today with the Senate hearing. William Barr, of course, the Attorney General, who is acting, in my humble opinion, maybe you'll disagree with me, or like a defense attorney.
Oh, he's acting like a very good defense attorney.
Yeah. By the way, you know what's interesting, and I raised this point before, just before you got here, was in today's Sun-Times, there was an article about the ongoing matter of Jussie Smollett and Kim Foxx, and the president of the Fraternal Order of Police gave a speech yesterday. Where was it? I forget where it was. Somewhere downtown. City Club. Yeah, he gave a City Club speech, and he said, "What we've asked for Kim Foxx and her office is to prosecute people, not to be the defense attorney." Kevin Graham, the Fraternal Order Police president, said. And isn't that interesting? I make the same thing about William Barr.
Of course, it's the same thing. And it's different sides of the coin. Kim Foxx is doing what she's doing because our judicial system screws black men coming and going day in and day out. And so she's trying to balance it a little bit. You know, with Jesse, for example, while what he did was wrong, it was not 16 counts wrong, and he's a first offender, so he should not be in jail under any circumstances. But the default position for black men is to lock them up, whereas with rich and powerful white men, the default position is to let them go.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we have going on, which is really interesting in Washington and in Chicago.
Well, you know, it is interesting, and it goes back. I remember I compare Donald Trump and his lawyers. I've done this with you in the show. I've been doing it all day. To Johnny Cochran, the way he defended O.J. Simpson in the 90s, just the way they attacked the prosecutors, they malign the prosecutors. They bring up outside issues to sort of divert our attention from the evidence that's right in front of us, try to distract us with this bigger picture. All these issues, you know, important stuff, but still distracting us from the central issue.
And with today's hearings in the Senate, Lindsey Graham.
South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham.
Who is chairman of the committee.
Big fan of Donald Trump, Lindsey Graham.
They golf together.
Who golfs together? Barr and Graham?
Yes. Trump and Graham.
Oh, I see. Okay,
They golf together.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Probably Trump cheats at golfing, by the way. It's a whole other story.
Trump cheats. If he's not cheating, he's lying.
Well, there's a book that just came out by a sports writer named Rick Riley, and it's called Commander in Cheat.
Yeah.
And it's about Trump on the golf course.
I've seen him interviewed.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm familiar with
Rick
that.
Riley, funny guy. Anyway, go ahead, Lindsey Graham.
Okay, so Lindsey starts it off by being very indignant, saying, why are we talking to you when we need to be looking into how this investigation got started? And the FBI, and so he attacks the FBI. He attacks the investigators, and what he wants to do. And he's saying, and hopefully we're going to get to this real soon, that he wants to investigate the investigators.
Absolutely. It's Johnny Cochran. What was the white cop's name that Johnny Cochran went after? I can't remember the white cop. Remember the white cops?
I know.
And he had a past, and that Johnny Cochran just made hay out of it.
He'd use the N-word on a bunch of
occasions. And when they brought that out, and it was just, he put... Johnny Cochran put the L.A. Police Department on trial, okay? And got O.J. off on that. And now that is exactly what Lindsey Graham is doing with the FBI in regards to Donald Trump.
Lindsey Graham, did you see that the tape of Lindsey Graham back when Clinton was
I did see this, but tell folks about it, yeah.
Where he says it's not simply the word. He says, but it's also like... The office requires hire, so it's the motive, it's the this, it's the that, you know. I mean, he was really on high ground back then.
Yes, he was really talking about the greater principles that matter.
Exactly. And now it's like, we didn't find a smoking gun. Don't worry about it.
Oh, they found a smoking gun. Now, here's my question for you, and we talked about this earlier. Maybe I have to replay some of the quotes that we had. Well, actually, we didn't have the quote. Dennis read them. Barr is his defense, according to the earlier reports from his testimony, is that Mueller did not specify that they indict Trump. And that's why Barr is sort of blaming it on Mueller. Mueller didn't. I would have indicted him, but Mueller didn't tell me to indict him.
Right.
What'd you make of that?
It's, you know, I haven't seen, actually. It's the testimony is still going on, and so obviously I haven't seen it all. But that of which I've seen, a couple hours I've seen, what Barr has been doing is ducking and dodging and defending Trump every which way he could. So he says that he says that Mueller didn't prove anything, and he left it up to him to make the decision. Now, in fact, what Mueller did was he laid out 10 obstruction of justice acts. And he didn't say this guy is wrong, but that was because the FBI has a memo from back in the 90s that says you can't indict a sitting president.
Yeah.
And so Mueller's thinking on this is highly speculated. It's not, we haven't heard completely from Mueller except for the letter. But his thinking on this is, well, if I can't indict the president, then why say I can indict him? Because that's not fair to the president. And that this has to be decided by the Congress. And he says that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's putting it on
in
Congress.
his report. He says that it's their job to do this. Mm-hmm. Barr has decided, well, since he's Mueller's boss, and Mueller didn't decide what should be going on, he's deciding. And his decision is that Trump is exonerated. He didn't do anything wrong.
I know. It is kind of a curious logic that Barr is playing.
Right.
And by the way, what do you make of Mueller saying, going back to that memo, that they can't indict a president? Did you buy that? Do you think a president should be exempt from any kind of...
No, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Although I can... It was born out of the Clinton impeachment because Clinton was highly distracted his last 2 years in office while he was being impeached.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, but that was for a much lesser case.
Now, let me ask you about this.
Yes.
If we could go back in time
Yes.
to a younger Monroe Anderson in the 1990s, you were probably doing Common Ground, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were the host of Common Ground throughout the 90s on Channel 2, talk show on Channel 2. Let's, if you can, go back in a time capsule and tell me what you would have been saying back in the 1997-ish or so as the Republicans, Newt Gingrich and Henry Hyde, were gearing up to impeach Bill Clinton for his lying in regards to Monica Lewinsky and their affairs. What would Monroe Anderson been saying in the 1990s?
I thought it was nonsense, the impeachment of Clinton, although he left the door open by lying. He did not have sex with that woman. Mm-hmm. He told the American people that, and he told Congress that. And so they got him on perjury and obstruction of justice. He was trying to prevent them from getting the evidence.
And so do you think... So do you still stand by that? That in other words, you were saying you would have voted against you were arguing against impeachment of Bill Clinton in the 1990s?
Yeah.
All right. So do you think that the stance you took, the stance that Democrats took, are undercutting their efforts to impeach Donald Trump for some real serious potential crimes that he may have committed in dealing with the Russians and in obstructing justice and hiding evidence, et cetera?
No, because they're ignoring all that. The Republicans, they're ignoring. They're using Clinton as well. Actually, they are. I forgot they are using Clinton. Hillary. They're still talking about
the
that was
emails,
the other thing,
right?
That was the other thing that Lindsey talked about. He says, and we're going to look into those emails. They investigated her 4 times on the emails and found nothing.
Yeah.
But they're going to find out why. Somebody who allegedly erased some of the emails was never called in by the FBI. That's part of the deep state scheme that they're claiming is at play. I mean, what they've done is they've adopted every right-wing nuts conspiracy on the deep state and how they were planning on taking over. The thing is, and they will talk about how these people hate Trump. And this is why they're doing this. But they never get around explaining why these people hate Trump. And they hate Trump because he's a Russian, a tool, and a crook, and a liar. It's easy if you stop and think about it, but they don't do that. They just, it's like these FBI agents got together and they said this about Trump, and they said they read through Stroge. Am I pronouncing it right?
Yeah, Stroge.
Yeah. They read through his email
text,
to his mistress.
Yeah.
He and his mistress were having love fun together.
Talking about Trump.
Right, talking about Trump, and they were cracking on him. And so they quote them and their comments about Trump and what a scumbag he is. Well, they've been investigating, so they know he's a scumbag, first of all. And Stroger was our top Russian spy hunter.
Yeah.
He was the best, and this is why Trump didn't want him around anymore.
All right. We should also talk before we come back to the notion of the message that Republicans are picking up from their most radical supporters, and then they're transmitting to the larger. I'm going to get into that. I have this great, interesting quote from a Gene Lyons column from this weekend. But I got to talk to you about the Mueller letter, and that broke today, or maybe it broke yesterday, last night. I think I sent you the article, a homework assignment to read.
Yeah.
Always homework assignments for the guests on the show.
Exactly.
I'm sure you would have read it anyway. But I was so excited I had to send it to you.
I started to call you last night when I heard about it. I started calling you.
Oh, Lord. We're two geeks. All right.
Right, because this is truly a bombshell.
Yeah.
This
All right,
letter.
talk about it. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Explain to people that may have missed it what the letter is that I'm alluding to.
The letter says, basically the letter says that Barr didn't have all the information. He was misrepresenting his the Mueller report.
Mm-hmm. It was a letter from Mueller to Barr.
Yeah, yeah, and that he was misrepresenting in these press conferences he was holding, and basically that was a lot more consequential than he was reporting it.
Yeah. Atiba Buchanan has entered the room. Atiba, I love it when my guests come early. Have a seat, young man. We'll bring you on real soon. I got Monroe Anderson with us. So the letter essentially
and the thing
accused
is,
him.
because and so Mueller was livid. To the extent of what people in his position, they never write letters. They don't write letters. They don't destroy letters because that's just not what they do. It's considered not kosher.
Yeah. And so Mueller
So
was
whenever
livid.
you do that, whatever it happens, it means what they're doing is protecting themselves from history, for historical purposes, because something's going to go down, and when it goes down, they want their name to be on the right side of history, not the wrong side.
And in this particular case, Mueller is concerned that Trump's going to get off?
No, he's upset. They spent 2 years, and as the Republicans like to say, well, 25 million, or as they questioned the hearings went on today, it went to 30 million, from 25 to 30 million.
It went up 5 million in just one hearing.
In 20 minutes, it grew that much. Of course, what we tend to forget is that Trump has spent $65 million in a year going to his various golf courses on weekends, because they have to take all these people with them.
Absolutely,
So that's peanuts. And also the other thing with the Mueller report, which they don't bother to talk about, is that Manafort was fined so much money that he brings that number down.
So he is underwriting the Mueller report, underwriting it. By the way, has he paid the fines, Paul Manafort?
Yeah, well, they have his houses. They've seized his homes, his homes were like 30 or 40 million. I can't remember how much, but they were worth a lot, and they're now federal government property.
Well, thank you, Paul Manafort.
Trump can sell it to a Russian.
Yes, Trump can sell it to a Russian. All right. Gene Lyons wrote this. So much Trump news in the paper these days, and when we're going to continue the conversation when Atiba Buchanan comes on as well. But I just want to get your reaction to this quote from Gene Lyons, who's a columnist, and he appears every Saturday in the Sun-Times. Very provocative columnist, Gene Lyons. Big defender of the Clintons, by the way. Gene Lyons was throughout the 90s, defended the Clintons, vociferously thought they were set up. That's a whole other story. Gene Lyons is writing about the Mueller report and the indifference, the relative indifference that Republicans have had to the findings in the Mueller report
Right.
that show all the evidence.
Right.
And he writes, unlike Putin, who is ruthless and highly competent, Trump would be useless in a crisis. Low cunning can only take somebody so far. To date, he and the nation have been lucky, although the chaos and incompetence depicted in the Mueller report are alarming all the same. You'd think some of Trump's less deluded supporters would begin to notice. If anything, however, the reception given the report by most Republicans vindicate Putin's and Trump's cynical belief that a critical mass of voters are as credulous and stupid as professional wrestling fans, easily manipulated through mass media appeals to their imbecile bigotry. If that hurts your feelings, tough. As credulous and stupid as professional wrestling fans. Monroe Anderson, do you agree or disagree with Gene Lyons?
I agree. Although when I was a teenager, I was a wrestling fan.
Big wrestling fan down in Gary, Indiana.
Exactly. However,
Yeah.
I was a teenager.
Yeah, and you knew it was a scam.
Well, no, I didn't know it right then. I was mature.
Is that right?
When I was
Like Bruno Sammartino? You thought that were legit?
Wait, no. I'm 8 years old.
Okay, all right, 8 years old. Okay, all right. Yeah.
So it wasn't reported at that time.
Mm-hmm.
It
That
wasn't,
was a scam.
it's been reported, and you see examples of it. Back then, I wasn't 100% convinced that it was real, but I was able to suspend a reality and really enjoy it until I outgrew it. I got to a point where, okay, but back then I believed in the Bible too, and I outgrew that. So,
all right, I'm not comparing the Bible to wrestling. And one more time, what do we say, D?
The views and actions of Monroe Anderson do not reflect those of the Ben Joravsky Show.
All right, Monroe's going to get me in trouble big time comparing the Bible to professional wrestling. I thought he was right on. I feel so much of what I try to do is, to find the truth. That's what we were taught as journalists, just to try to find the truth.
Exactly.
Go where it is. Put aside as much as you can your personal opinions and your thoughts, but just try to find the truth. But we are now locked up into this.
Well, we're now political analysts. And
is that what we are?
Yeah, right,
Okay.
exactly. So you get to have a decision. I mean, an opinion.
Well, I have an opinion. Like, for instance, I have an opinion and I have.
Express it.
Okay, so here, like in terms of going back to the Clinton thing, in the 90s, I was thinking, is the investigation of Bill Clinton and are the crimes that investigation is showing, which essentially he was lying to avoid a real embarrassing showdown with his wife, who probably knew about what he was up to anyway.
Oh, yeah,
All
but
right.
she was, but a lot of times in these marriages, what people try to do is overlook and pretend they look the other way because they don't want to deal with
Right.
the reality.
Okay, and and I'm sure Hillary is looking for years the other way.
Exactly.
All right.
Well,
And-
no, my other theory, is because Bill and I are basically the same age. He's a year older than me.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
He was in college at the same time I was in the 60s, and it was the birth of women's liberation and the birth of free sex, which was a golden time.
Yeah. Monroe Anderson suddenly reminiscing about his golden years.
It was a golden
he was a
time.
tiger back in 1968.
Right. So anyway, what developed out of that between the two is that you could get in a relationship and still be fooling around with that was even when they had open marriages.
Yeah.
So you could be in a relationship and fool around, and it was not a big deal.
All right, we're on a tangent within a tangent. I would have been a lot more sympathetic to Hillary and Bill Clinton had they responded in the 1990s to these investigations by saying, you know what, we have an open marriage, and what Bill does is his business, and what I do is my business. I would have
Except
respected that.
wouldn't work for a politician.
Well, in this day and age, it would work with Donnie Trump. I think that if things have changed so much and so drastically that the Clintons had to pretend as though
that's 20
they had a
years. You got to put they're eras. They had Lori Lightfoot run for mayor 20 years ago. Where would she be?
That's a valid point, but I would like that's a valid point.
Okay, but anyway, let me finish with the Clintons for 1 second. Okay, and so how you start a relationship is how it has to be, basically. If you meet the love of your life and you bring her flowers every day, every week for a year, you get married, you can't stop bringing her flowers if that really turns her on. That's what you have to do. So my theory is that Bill was messing around when they were in college. He was messing around when they got married.
Wow.
And he never stopped messing around. And she just said, "Okay, just don't let it go public. Don't embarrass me."
All right. And so, I think I see the analogy you're making, though I don't think there's anyone in the world, man or woman, who would equate getting flowers every day from their loved one to having their loved one cheating on them. But all right, let's put that aside. I think I see the point.
I'm talking about expectations and rituals.
I stand by what I say, though. It would have been completely radical and revolutionary for the Clintons to stand up and defend their marriage for what it was, an open marriage of convenience, where they really enjoyed working with each other on political issues and strategic issues, and one appreciated the mind of the other. And it's clear that was a partnership that worked, but that it was essentially a free and open marriage where she looked the other way.
It's more complicated than that. Also, Monica Lewinsky was an intern.
Okay, well,
he was the president of the United States. She was a starstruck 22-year-old.
All right, so this gets back to the point I was trying to make before we went on the tangent, which was a great tangent, and I really appreciate the riff. And all the letters complaining about what Monroe had to say. Please send them Monroe.
But Monroe Anderson at Yahoo.
Yahoo. But I think a lot of Democrats, and I'm thinking of my dear mom when I say this, felt that the Clinton agenda that he was pursuing, which was a little to the right now when we think where the Democrats are now, but it was to the left or where the Republicans were. It was
to the right of Nixon.
It was to the right of Nixon.
Yes.
All right, but
in how much we slid.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know when you think about the crime bill of the 1990s, it was straight out of Nixon.
Exactly.
And now Joe Biden. I'm going to ask you some Joe Biden questions. Okay. All right. But anyway, for whatever it is, the Clinton agenda was preferable to the Newt Gingrich one in 1995 and his contract on America.
Contract on
America.
Yes.
Right. So many Democrats said that they wanted Clinton to beat the rap, if only so he can pursue his agenda. All right?
Yeah.
And that is the same mindset the Republicans have now. They just want those tax breaks, so they're willing to put up with any old...
And the Supreme Court judges.
And the Supreme Court judges. And that was the same argument. Now, when I think about it strategically, Monroe, with the retrospect of 20-odd years, I think the Democrats... If you had Al Gore as the president because Clinton got impeached, I don't know if that would have hurt the Clinton agenda. They still would have had a Democrat appointed. Yeah. And Al Gore may have been victorious in 2020 as a result.
No. We had the same reason Bill got off is the same reason that O.J. got off. Because people thought that they didn't like how they were being attacked and what they were being attacked for. They loved Clinton. In fact, Clinton came out of that more popular, out of the impeachment.
Yeah, but then Al Gore had to wear the. Al Gore wore it. I mean, Al Gore couldn't win Arkansas. He couldn't win Tennessee.
Yeah, no, Al Gore. The problem was that Al Gore was too boring. He did not have Clinton's charm. He lost for that. He lost his own home state because he hadn't been back there.
Yeah.
He was so busy enjoying being in D.C.
Well, he also wanted to run away and separate himself from Bill Clinton because of the controversy over the impeachment. And so I think that definitely hurt him in states like Florida, where Clinton would have helped him out.
He didn't even use Clinton. He didn't get Clinton to campaign.
Yeah. So, in other words, you're not buying. So you're still standing by your position in the 90s that Clinton should not have been impeached.
Right.
Okay.
And another thing that I want to talk about real quickly with the Clinton, and that's that Hillary. People talk about what a horrible candidate she was, and that's why she lost. No, Trump's campaign was much worse than Hillary. That was the worst campaign ever.
Donald Trump's?
Yeah. So that wasn't it. The thing was, over 20-some years, the Republicans have spent almost $1 $1 billion demonizing the Clintons, and it stuck. So she was Crooked Hillary, although she, unlike Trump, she's never been named in any indictment or anything. And of course there have been Whitewater, been all sorts of scandals, but they were manufactured by the Republicans.
That is Monroe Anderson. I'm Ben Joravsky. Atiba Buchanan sitting by. We're going to bring him on. We're going to continue the Trump, Clinton, Barr, Mueller discussion. I'm also going to bring in Grandpa Joe Biden. Got a tape ready to play for Monroe and Atiba to see what their opinions are about Joe Biden and his secret weapon to win over voters. We'll be right back after this.
If you would like to advertise with the Ben Joravsky Show, and who wouldn't, contact Tracy Baim at publisher@chicagoreadercorp.com. We have several advertising options for your business or organization, and quite frankly, we would love nothing more than to tell our listeners all about it. Once again, that's Tracy Baim at publisher@chicagoreadercorp, that's CORP as in Paul.com, to advertise with the Ben Joravsky Show, the Chicago Reader, and the Chicago Sun-Times. We look forward to plugging you. Okay, well, that came out kind of weird. More of the Ben Joravsky Show live and downloaded in moments. Hey there, Producer Dennis here. Thanks for finding and listening to the brand new Ben Joravsky Show. All right, so here's how this works. The Ben Joravsky Show live streams on the Chicago Sun-Times YouTube channel Tuesday through Friday, 1 until 3 p.m. Once the show is over, you can listen to the replay on our YouTube channel, or we throw it online for you to download by 4 p.m. Where can you download the Ben Joravsky Show, you may be asking yourself? Well, you may be asking yourself a fantastic question. You can find previous Ben Joravsky shows and guest interviews through several outlets. The Chicago Sun-Times online, chicago.suntimes.com, the Chicago Reader online, chicagoreader.com, and wherever else you listen to your favorite podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, pick one. Just search for The Ben Joravsky Show. J-O-R-A, V as in victory, S-K-Y. So, let's recap. Tuesday through Friday, 1 until 3 p.m., live streamed on the Chicago Sun-Times YouTube channel and downloadable by 4 at chicago.suntimes.com, chicagoreader.com, and wherever else you listen to your favorite podcast. Yes, the Ben Joravsky Show is back. We're live and downloaded. Tell your friends and enjoy the rest of the show. Hey guys, how's it going? Hour number 2 of your Ben Joravsky Show is just moments away. But before we get into that, we would like to thank the following unions again for bringing back the Ben Joravsky Show. Big thank you to the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 in District 8, not 125 or District 9. I don't know if they like us or not, but the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, and the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150. Thank you once again to those unions for jumping on board here and bringing back the Ben Joravsky Show. And, of course, today's show is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. Hour number 2, let's go. It is Wednesday, May 1st, and live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. In this hour of the program, we still got Monroe Anderson in studio. We welcome host of Humanity and the Headlines, Atiba Buchanan, and 20th Ward Alderwoman, Jeanette Taylor. And now your host, the meanest air organ player out there. Yeah. He's good. Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
No one plays the air organ like me. I've twisted Monroe Anderson's arm, forced him to stay for at least another half hour. Atiba Buchanan has joined us. He's the host of Humanity in the Headlines show on Intellectual Radio, and we're going to continue our discussion about Trump and Mueller and Barr and the Clintons. I'm going to throw a little Grandpa Joe into the mix as well. But before we do that, D, you got an update for me?
Absolutely, I do. First off, everybody who's listening, find us on Facebook or Twitter if you've yet to do so. Benny J Show, Benny, the letter J, Show. Find us there. Give us a like, review, tell us we suck, whatever you want to do. It doesn't matter. Just head over there. And once we hit 1,500 likes, we will have our next caption contest, by the way. I believe we got a little ways to go, but help make it possible. Head over to the Ben Joravsky Show Facebook page and find us here. Kind of looking here at the live stream chat, seeing if anybody has anything to say here. Okay. Well, apparently you said, we got Steven here. The fact that Ben used the phrase "get himself off" is news. Apparently you said that in the last hour.
Did I?
Kind of funny.
I don't know.
Let's see
stuff
here.
that comes out of my mouth.
Well,
Yeah, see, you guys accuse me of saying it.
oh, this guy curses like a sailor.
Actually, Maya, yesterday. Woo! That,
Yeah,
Maya.
download yesterday's show to cover your children's ears if when you hear Maya's thing. Our friend Alkayla, I'm pronouncing your name wrong. I'm so sorry. You're new to the live stream chat. Welcome. You're very bright. He or she or they puts rule of thumb: if Trump's mouth is open, yeah, it's lying.
It's pretty much true, yeah.
Fingers, too.
Oh.
His fingers are moving.
If his fingers are moving, his toes are wiggling. Basically, if he's just awake. All right. So, and we'll have an update here. I guess the theme in the local news, we got one. Illinois Republican politicians, they must have had a meeting recently and finally got their Pritzker talking points together, because this week, more than any other, we have news of Illinois Republicans stretching the truth like crazy in an attempt to bash the big fella. In the last hour, we mentioned Republicans calling hypocrisy over Toiletgate. Mm-hmm. Well, this hour, it's on fair map redistricting. Ben, for those who may not know, tell us what's the big deal with fair map redistricting?
Well, fair map redistricting is a principle, an idea, IDAL, that we should take politics out of the redistricting process, and we should have effectively computers as much as possible dividing up the political landscape so that the Democrats aren't doing it in their gerrymandering for their benefit, or the Republicans aren't gerrymandering for the benefit. And this is one of those things, Atiba and Monroe, that in principle I agree with. But in practice, the reality is this: the Republicans cheat at this game more than Democrats. We can go down the list of states where Republicans have twisted the map upside and down to take a legislative a mandate where they don't really have one: Wisconsin, North Carolina, Virginia. So then they turn around in the state of Illinois, where the Democrats play that game, where Michael Madigan's in charge, and they say, okay, we have to have a fair map in Illinois. I'm like, I'll have a fair map in Illinois when you have one in Wisconsin. I'll have a fair map in Illinois when you have one in Ohio. Or
well, why can't the Democrats cheat the way the Republicans do? I mean, why are we so poor at cheating?
Well, first of all, some would say that Michael Madigan. It is a fair question. Atiba, some would say that Michael Madigan is pretty good at playing this game, the House Speaker.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, here's the thing that concerns me, Ben. When with you, I agree in principle on that matter, but the substance and the context is Republicans do it more, significantly more.
Right.
And the sad part is that takes away our ability to know where we are as a country, to know where we are as a community, because again, you do have people that don't have a mandate taking over in a community now, or representing a community that they really don't represent. So I just want a fair election. If Republicans win, God bless them if they really win. And at least if they win legitimately, we know where we are. Mm-hmm. But when you include gerrymandering, it takes away the ability to know that. And that puts everybody behind.
We also have to stop voter suppression. I mean, that's
hand in hand, right?
Yeah,
that's hand in hand.
Exactly.
Well, you don't hear the same force. See, I always very cautious, Atiba and Monroe, when I hear the word reform used in regards to anything in the state of Illinois or the city of Chicago. But I really get nervous when Republicans talk about reform, because generally when Republicans talk about reform, they're attempting to continue this perpetuating a system that already works to her advantage in their favor. And so voter suppression, you'll never hear a Republican talk about voter suppression, but you hear Republicans talk about the need to have identity cards because people are illegally voting, when in fact those identity cards are used to suppress a vote. So this is why, Atiba, I have a hard time having, quote unquote, an honest discussion about all these great principles of electoral politics, because I think the game is rigged, to quote Donald Trump, only it's rigged on behalf of Donald Trump.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I would completely agree, because framing is everything. And so when Republicans talk about, again, identity cards, the framing is, they try and oversimplify. Well, don't you need an ID to vote? And they leave out the nuance that you can't register to vote without an ID. So you've already gone through that process. So when they try and make it sound like you're unpatriotic, you just want anybody to be able to vote. No, let's be honest here. We can't register to vote without an ID, without a bill with your address on it, without all of that information. So by the time you do that, when you go vote, all you need to do is match the signature. And people aren't willing to go to jail, no matter what they say, for 5 or 10 years just to add one extra vote. People are not inclined to do that. We've had 31 cases of voter fraud in over a billion
voter ID fraud.
Voter ID fraud in over a billion votes cast. It's non-existent.
Yeah,
so again, their framing of it allows them to try and control that conversation. We always have to be careful of that.
A made-up issue. Yo, go back to you.
So
D.
now that we're all caught up on fair map districting here, let's get to the stretching. Oh yeah, the following comes from the ILGOP press release on April 23rd. They say here, last year, Pritzker told Capitol Facts' Rich Miller he would veto a map that was drawn, quote, in any way by legislators, political leaders, or their staffs. And now they say in an interview yesterday, which was April 22nd, with the State Journal Register, Governor J.B. Pritzker seemed to walk back a pledge to veto legislative redistricting maps drawn with political considerations. Pritzker said, quote, I would veto a map that I thought was an unfair one. And then finally, Illinois Republican Party spokesman Aaron DeGroot, in this little press release, put, supporter of fair maps should be concerned that they must now rely on Pritzker's personal determination of what's fair rather than a concrete pledge to veto gerrymandered legislative maps and enact independent redistricting reform.
All right, what's the young feller's name that you just quoted, Aaron?
Aaron DeGroot.
All right, Aaron DeGroot. I would believe what you're saying the day you speak up about Scott Walker and what he did in Wisconsin, how he shoved a Republican majority on a state that was probably voting majority Senate. Do you agree with me in that, Atiba?
Yeah, and then you look at what's happened in Wisconsin since. They finally get a Democratic governor, and then they look to take away the power of the governorship.
Right.
I mean, it's absolutely disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. So yes, you're right. Bring up Wisconsin, because it's never fair. It's never equal. And no matter how they try and frame it, they always have something else going.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, which is why I think we should impeach Trump tomorrow.
All right.
Because the Republicans wouldn't be sitting around hand wringing and saying, well, are the Democrats going to come out and vote, or are they going to be upset?
All right, Atiba, impeach Trump or not? What's your thoughts?
I think he has to be impeached. Because, and some people may like what I'm going to say, some may not. I think it was a good thing that Bill Clinton was impeached. I'm glad he wasn't convicted in the Senate, but I'm glad he was impeached, because if nothing else, you can just ask this one basic question. You have to maintain the presidency, the office. How many presidents since Bill Clinton have gotten fellatio in the office from an intern sense?
Well, I don't know.
The answer's none. Then maybe it was a good thing.
Right.
So if we let Trump, and my point in saying that is, if we let Trump slide, then that will forever be a standard. The next president to come in and behave with conflicts of interest and not divesting himself from his businesses. How can we ever impeach upon those things if we don't do it now?
All right. Now, I will say this. It was, according to the Republicans, and we're going back to it wasn't the sexual act itself.
It was the lying.
It was the lying about it.
Right.
So the real question is, how many presidents have been lying under oath since Bill Clinton? I don't know the answer to that.
Well, here's the deal. Donald Trump wouldn't allow himself to talk under oath.
There you go.
Right.
He never submitted himself.
Because he can't say 3 sentences without lying.
Right.
Although William Barr, what were you about to say?
Although William Barr insisted today over and over again that he cooperated. with the investigation.
And what's coming out of that is more and more Democrats are talking about or demanding that he resign, or they're talking about impeaching him.
All right. Now let's get to that. Atiba, Monroe and I have been talking about here for a little while now. We missed most of anything new out of Barr's testimony, or is he still mostly just ducking and dodging? This is what he was doing in the earlier portion.
Well, we got some clarity. So here's the deal. There's been a lot of talk about William Barr and trying to give him the benefit of the doubt over and over again. We're not sure what his intentions are. They really don't want to call a spade in this situation. But today it made it clear with the letter that Mueller released yesterday, or that was released, that Bob Mueller had written to William Barr, that made it perfectly clear. So just to catch everyone up, the initial summary by William Barr on the Mueller report was sent out on March 24th. And by March 27th, Robert Mueller had sent William Barr a letter directly refuting what he had put out in the summary, saying that it had lacked the context, it had lacked the intent of the Mueller report. He was very upset. You guys were talking about it earlier.
Exactly.
April 9th, Barr is testifying in front of Congress, and they ask him, hey, we've been hearing reports that the Mueller camp is upset at your characterization of the report. And he said, I don't know anything about that. Clearly, he was lying because he had gotten that letter directly from Mueller on 3 days after it had been released to the public. So his explanation for that discrepancy is that we asked the wrong question. You guys ever seen the movie I, Robot?
Yeah, I saw iRobot.
Remember when he was when Will Smith was trying to get answers from the dead doctor's hologram, and he would ask him questions, and the hologram was like, "That's not the right question. That's not the right question." That's the game he played. So what he said was, "Hey, you guys asked me if I heard about anonymous people in the Mueller camp being unhappy with it. I was just talking about a conversation I had directly with Bob Mueller himself."
Right, and he said, and Mueller told him that he wasn't upset with the actual report. He was upset with the press coverage.
Yeah.
Right. So that was the spin that we had today. So that made it very clear that, one, he is a sycophant for Trump, and that he is Trump's personal attorney as opposed to being the attorney general. One other thing that came out of it, Lindsey Graham admitted that he had not, in fact, read the Mueller report in full. Mind you, he is the head of the Senate Judiciary Committee.
Senator Lindsey Graham, yeah.
He has not read the Mueller report.
Yes, and this is what they're counting on, is how many people are going to actually read 448 pages. Not many.
Yeah.
Not many. But this is why we need the hearings, and we need them right now, because they will watch TV.
Yes, I agree with that. By the way, you don't even have to read the full Mueller report. I still have kept my copy here of the New York Times the day after, where they have the basic points just outlined right on the front page of the New York Times. You know, the cliff notes of the Mueller report.
Okay, but this is what I want to know. Whose summary are you going to believe? The New York Times or Barr's?
Oh, no, or you're lying eyes.
Or Barr's.
Yeah. All right, so where are we heading now, Atiba, in terms of Barr's participation with the House of Representatives hearing? Monroe and I were talking about that. Are there any updates on that one?
There are not. It's looking like he still may testify tomorrow.
Oh, he may testify tomorrow.
Yeah, it has not come out one way or the other, but because it's going to cause big problems if he doesn't. And that will definitely then cause them to hasten getting Mueller in front of everybody. And the one thing that they're really afraid of is Don McGahn. They really don't. That's one thing that came out today too. They asked him about
they're afraid of him, meaning the Republicans are.
Yes, the Republicans and the White House.
Yeah,
they do not want Don McGahn to testify, because that was another point of contention they had, was trying to figure out if Don McGahn had actually said that Trump had asked him to fire Mueller.
Yeah,
and once again, Barr's card he pulled was, well, he asked him to be removed, and being removed is different than being fired.
Right.
He didn't use the word fire.
Wow.
He would replace him. He planned to replace him.
Unbelievable.
This is what's really interesting. I find interesting also, is that they are trying to use executive privilege to keep him from testifying.
They, meaning the Republicans in the White House, are trying to use executive privilege to keep McCann.
But he's already testified. It's on the record. And once it's public then it's no longer executive privilege. It can't be.
By the way, he is. We could talk about Don McCann. Some folks following at home. He is the White House counsel. He was the lawyer to Trump in the White House, and as such, was advising the president on what he can and cannot do. And
right.
apparently, he's the one who saved us from having fired Mueller. Right?
Yes.
Isn't that right? Okay.
Yes. And he admitted to Mueller that the president had asked him that. He's on the record as admitting to the president asking him to do that, to call Rod Rosenstein and have Rod Rosenstein fire Mueller.
Yeah, and the whole theory behind executive privilege is that as the chief executive of the nation, the president should be able to confide in his people, and where they won't know, where they can't go out and just say, well, he did this or he did that. But it's already out there. So it's nothing you're protecting or defending anymore.
All right. Now, Atiba, the position taken by Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, is that she's not ready to champion impeachment hearings. I think it's a clever position that she's taken. She's letting the process run itself while distancing herself. This is my opinion of what she's up to. First of all, let's get your thoughts on how Nancy Pelosi is handling this. And secondly, do you think what do you think the next step the Democrats should take? So let's deal with the Pelosi question first.
Sure. So first of all, I have a newfound respect for her after the midterms, flipping 40 seats. How I don't have a choice but to respect her. She got the House back, and she got it in winning fashion. So I give her that. With that said, I'm willing to give her a lot of deference, and I'm willing to wait back and see. I don't necessarily agree what comes out of her mouth about it, because I think it's more than fair to talk about impeaching him based upon, if nothing else, his conflicts of interest. Again, him not even divesting himself from his businesses. He is using Mar-a-Lago to enrich himself. He is a grifter, and I think those things need to be addressed.
How do you talk about? What do you mean by he's using Mar-a-Lago to? Mar-a-Lago is the resort that Trump owns in Florida. What do you mean by
Mar-a-Lago so the first thing that he did was double his fee once he became president to join Mar-a-Lago. It went from $100,000 to $200,000. He was supposed to again divest himself from the business, but he never did. So he's still in control of Mar-a-Lago, where now you have all these foreign dignitaries coming into Mar-a-Lago, and he's there every weekend. And that's the easiest way for them to meet with Trump and get business out of him and get their issues and their agendas dealt with. Meanwhile, while he's making money in the process. So that in and of itself is extremely problematic. But back to Pelosi. Again, I'm willing to wait it out and see. I do think the most important thing that they need to do is get everything out in the public sphere, kind of like you were saying. We need to get Mueller not only to talk to Congress, but to do it publicly. We need to get McGahn to do it publicly, because to your point, Ben, people watch television.
Yeah.
And right now, Donald Trump has had the complete ability to shape the narrative, because even when he lies, Bob Mueller is such a professional. He's even professional enough to sit back and let him lie, because he knows he can't refute him in public without divulging information he shouldn't divulge.
And I'll tell you, Atiba, this is just a small show. Yours is another one. But I could tell you this: if there are congressional hearings on this, and there's a testimony that that Dennis can play on the air, I'd have you and Monroe and Jim Coogan and all my other Trump geeks pouring over it and explaining to people. And you do it on your show. Monroe is all over the air. He does it on about 3 different radio stations these days. So you're absolutely correct when you say we will get that information out. It'll reduce, in some cases, the sound bites that you can't avoid, like the one you're talking about, where Barr is just trying to sneak his way out of what the difference between what is it?
Fired and replaced.
Right, fired and replaced. Wow, that's even worse than Clinton and
is
right?
Yeah. Nicole Wallace earlier today on MSNBC said that Barr is more dangerous than Trump because he's smart.
Right. And that's the same thing with Mike Pence.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right.
Wait, what do you mean about Mike Pence?
The biggest problem with Trump is his mouth. So a lot of the things that he does, he can't even get done because he says, like, for instance, this whole Mueller thing happened because he said to Lester Holt directly, yes, I fired him. I fired Jim Comey because of Russia.
It was that Russia thing.
Right, that Russia thing.
Yeah.
Of course, Russia.
And it's those types of gaffes that he has that impedes his own process, where someone like Mike Pence, who has been in Congress, who has been a governor, knows exactly what to say, knows all the relationships, and he will never say anything out loud that will ever impede his own progress.
Yeah.
So people like Pence, people like Barr, that honestly are smart, will not do the things that Donald Trump does.
I hear exactly what both of you are saying to this point, and essentially I agree with you, but I'll just add this. I don't think Pence would have been victorious in the 2016 election. Donald Trump's strength is his weakness, and that bluffing ability, that sort of like let the chips fall where they may, breaking all the rules, saying whatever pops into his head. That's the reason he got elected president in the first place.
The reason he got elected president was Putin.
Okay.
And less than 80,000 votes in 3 states, of which at least 2 of them were suppressing votes.
All right, but let's throw that out there. You have to admit, or maybe you don't, feel free to vigorously disagree with me, that part of Donald Trump's appeal is that he breaks all the rules.
That's a huge part of his appeal. But what I'm saying is, when I talk about Pence being in that seat, it's not because he would have won the presidency. It's because if we indict Donald Trump, if we impeach him and then see it through to fruition, who becomes president? That's what I mean. So a President Pence is well more dangerous than a President Trump.
Well, we'll be having this conversation a lot, and I love having Atiba Buchanan in the studio with Monroe Anderson because it is like 3 Trump geeks in a room.
Let's do it.
We'll be having this conversation a lot. But I will be saying this as this, impeachment isn't impeachment, the investigation proceeds. Atiba, Monroe, the calendar is not really in favor. Think about the calendar itself. I keep saying this to Dennis, man, I see Iowa on the horizon. The Iowa caucus is right around the corner. Right. I mean, we are heading into the president.
Which is why I think they should start the impeachment soon.
No, but
when I say tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
But you got to do it before September, because after September, everybody's paying attention and they will use it in not a good way.
Yeah.
But I think what they need to do is bring Mueller in and bring McGahn in and then impeach him.
By the way, Jeanette Taylor has entered the building. I love it when my guests come early. She's getting ready to come on, the newly elected alderman from the 20th Ward. Pride and joy of the 20th Ward is in the building. But before we do that, we still have Atiba Monroe. We're doing our deep dive on Trump. God, there's not enough time to get into this, but this Atiba, this is one of Monroe's favorite. Monroe and I have been talking Trump for 2 years now on the radio, okay? And he's been talking about Deutsche Bank laundering money from the Russians, concealing the money that Donald Trump has been making illicitly. This man has been talking about this stuff long before it was fashionable.
Well, thank God for Monroe.
Yeah, thank God for. A lot of people say that.
Yes.
I've been saying that for many, many years. Thank God for Monroe. But it seems as though the Deutsche Bank is finally going to burst into the public sphere. And their Trump people are really trying to resist Deutsche Bank revealing some of the inner secrets. Talk about that. Clue people into what the whole Deutsche Bank situation is.
To be honest with you, I'm not as aware of I'm aware of it. Don't get me wrong. I can't get into the minutia of it, but I will say this: that I think the Deutsche Bank situation begs one question, and Trump's reaction to it, I should say. What is he so afraid of?
Well,
what is he so between the tax returns, Deutsche Bank not wanting anyone to see anything about his financials? What is he afraid of? And I think it's just my opinion. I think that the guy could very well be worth a lot less than he's purported over the past decade.
Oh, he is. But also, they loaned him $300 million, and
Deutsche Bank.
And he sued them.
Right, and he sued them, and also nobody else would loan him the money at all, and he sued them also, and it's because Deutsche Bank is the Russians' ruble laundering machine.
This is Monroe Anderson has been saying this for 2 years.
Exactly.
Yes.
So they, and now that they have the papers, the Southern District of New York has the papers. They're subpoenaing them. They're about to get them, and Trump is suing, trying to prevent that because it's game over.
All right.
That happens.
We'll be following this one because I do believe that Monroe's onto something. First, I was very dubious and Monroe, I don't know, but I think the resistance that Donald Trump is putting up to this thing really shows where.
And that's what's most telling. again, is his response.
Right.
He's, folks, he's suing Deutsche Bank, just so folks know, to try to prevent them from revealing documents that the Democrats in the Congress want to see.
Absolutely.
And by the way, Deutsche Bank is partly responsible for that monstrosity in downtown Chicago or on the banks of the Chicago River called Trump Tower. It just gets me irritated every day, Atiba. I see that big Trump sign up there, and you could thank Mayor Rahm Emanuel for that sign.
Right.
That happened under Rahm's watch.
I think that's Burke.
Stop giving Rahm the benefit of the doubt. Burke, I can't even get the words out.
Okay.
Whenever anybody lets Rahm off because Burke did, Burke made me do it. You know. All right, guys, I have to get your response to this. All right, Now I talked about this at the outset of the show. D, get ready to do Biden. Okay, so I've had most of the people come on the show are sort of the liberal lefty persuasion, all right? And so they've been coming on the show, and they've been pretty hard on the man I affectionately call Grandpa Joe, Papa Joe, Uncle Joe, whatever it is, Joe Biden, all right? I share their views, Atiba, to a large degree. A lot of the issues, I'm going to write about this in the Reader, a lot of the things that Joe Biden stood for in the 80s and 90s look really kind of twisted right now in the perspective of 2019, to put it mildly. So I was like, I'm Elizabeth Warren. I like Elizabeth Warren. I've always loved Bernie. I like Bernie. And then out of the past came a voice, Atiba I hadn't heard in a while, telling me, you got to vote for Papa Joe, Grandpa Joe. Oh, Barack Obama came out. Have you heard this thing?
Yes.
And then suddenly I feel my hand go, no, vote for Joe. So I want you to hear this. I want both of you to hear this. Dennis is going to play it, this little bit that Joe Biden has just released of Barack Obama, and get your thoughts on it. Play it, D.
This is an extraordinary man with an extraordinary career in public service. Somebody who has devoted his entire professional life to service to this country. He revitalized American manufacturing as the head of our middle-class task force. He fought to make college more affordable. He suited up for our cancer moonshot, giving hope to millions of Americans.
The drum.
Joe's candid.
It's my favorite part.
Has made me a better president. He led our It's On Us campaign against campus sexual assault. He championed landmark legislation to protect women from violence. He led our efforts to combat gun violence. He could not have been a more effective partner in the progress that we've made.
All right, I'm weeping. Barack Obama coming from out of
And we're missing the visuals where he hung the medal.
Yeah, he hangs the medal, and you hear that voice and the drum coming in. All right, Atiba, is that going to get you to run out and vote for Joe Biden?
It does not.
Okay, all right. I'm going to play it for Jeanette Taylor, too, by the way, but go ahead.
I think here's the biggest problem with Joe Biden. I don't have a major problem with him, but I think the biggest problem he's going to have is that aside from this commercial, I don't know what legislation in the past decade that you can immediately associate with him. I don't know what cause you can immediately associate with him. When you look at Bernie Sanders, he's Mr. Medicare for all. You know this, and that's what Joe lacks. I can't think of anything where I know if Joe gets in the White House, he's definitely going to take care of this. What is that?
Yeah,
I don't know, and it's not enough to be able to say I was Barack Obama's vice president for 8 years. Not for me. That again, though, a lot of the initiatives that Barack Obama got done are attributed to him, but not necessarily to the vice president. So I don't know what to this day I don't know what necessarily Joe runs on, other than I've been around a long time.
Joe forced Obama to evolve on the whole gay marriage issue because Obama was still opposing it.
See, I totally don't buy that. But go ahead, finish your thoughts.
I don't think Obama had a choice.
First of all, Obama devolved. He was for gay marriage in the 90s when he was out of Hyde Park. Then he was against it.
Yeah, but I'm saying but he forced by his announcing that Joe said he was for it.
But don't you think that was the game they played, where Obama said, "Hey, Joe, you go on out and say you're for gay marriage, and if you drop dead, then I won't say it. But if you live, I'm like, I was listening to Joe and." The game's politician. Come on, man. Yeah. You should know because you were the press secretary.
Yeah, right. I know.
You played a few of those games.
I know. Right. Not many.
Yeah, right. Gene Sawyer didn't do any of that stuff. So but don't you guys feel like a tugging at the heartstrings here? And maybe Hearing Obama's voice?
This is my position.
Go ahead.
Democrats have an embarrassment of riches right now with the candidates. There are at least 10 of them that I like, and whoever won, I think I could be happy with. And so whether I think it could be Joe, except if Kamala comes in first or second in Iowa, then black folks are going to leave Joe quick, fast, and in a hurry and go to Kamala.
You remember 2008,
right,
don't you?
Exactly. And actually, I was on the Obama bus. I don't know if I ever told you this. In 2008 in New Hampshire and South Carolina. I was there, and
you saw that transition.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I was there with the folks. Well, there was no black people in New Hampshire.
No, except for you and Barack Obama. All right, so Tiba, how do you view it? Do you think that will play well with voters, black voters in the South, for instance?
Unfortunately, yes. Because I can't. I try not to speak about black people as a monolith because they're not. But generally speaking, black people like loyalty. And if nothing else, I will give Joe Biden this. He was very loyal to Barack Obama. And
he was the wingman.
Yeah, and that is definitely going to pay some dividends. I don't know how much. It depends on, like he said, how the other candidates rise or not. But he definitely will, for a season at least, have a good support of black support just because of his association with Obama.
Well, one thing is for sure, I'm cut from the same cloth. I'm very loyal to people who are with me. So I want to thank Monroe Anderson, who has been with me every step of the way. He never strayed from the path. And Atiba Buchanan, thank you so much for coming in as well.
Thank you for having me.
It's so much fun talking to you guys. I'm going to bring you back to talk more Trump with Monroe because that gets me all fired up. So
anytime.
All right, we're going to switch gears a little bit, talk a little more local politics. The newly elected alderwoman of the 20th Ward is in the studio, Jeanette Taylor. We're going to bring her on after this.
The Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you by the Chicago Sun-Times. For the latest in Chicago and Illinois news, sports, weather, and the latest in national news from a real Chicago frame of mind and real Chicago writers, check out the Chicago Sun-Times. Read the daily paper or online at chicago.suntimes.com. And hey, if you have a little extra cash, subscribe. And by the Chicago Reader. For a deeper dive in the daily Chicago news and for all of what's going on in this city, you gotta read the Reader. Music, arts and culture, film, extensive event calendars, concert listings, and more, including weekly political columns from writers like Maya Dukmasova and, yes, our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader is free in newsstands and at chicagoreader.com. That's chicagoreader.com. If you would like to advertise with the Ben Joravsky Show, and who wouldn't, contact Tracy Boehm at publisher@chicagoreadercorp.com. We have several advertising options for your business or organization, and quite frankly, we would love nothing more than to tell our listeners all about it. Once again, that's Tracy Boehm at publisher@chicagoreadercorp, that's CORP as in Paul.com, to advertise with the Ben Joravsky Show, the Chicago Reader, and the Chicago Sun-Times. We look forward to plugging you. Okay, well, that came out kind of weird. More of the Ben Joravsky Show live and downloaded in moments. Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show.
All right. Yes, indeed. We are back. We're alive. Atiba Buchanan and Monroe Anderson have left the building. Atiba Buchanan and Monroe Anderson have left the building, and our discussion of Donald Trump has left with them. Although we may pick up a little bit in the seat is Jeanette Taylor, the newly elected alderwoman of the 20th Ward. Jeanette, welcome to my show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
And I'm excited to have you here. So first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness, we talked about your race so many times. Maya Dukmasova and myself, we talked about your race at least 5 times. There were so many candidates running in the 20th Ward. So a lot of our listeners from outside of Chicago, first of all, tell folks a little bit about the 20th Ward, where it's located in the city of Chicago.
So the 20th Ward is located on the south side of Chicago. It encompasses Woodlawn, Washington Park, Back of the Yards, New City, Inglewood, and Summer Greater Grand Crossing. Mm-hmm. And it is the home, it will soon be the home of the Obama Presidential Center. Mm-hmm. Which is very interesting, and is definitely some heated conversations about the displacement that normally happens in Chicago. We know anytime investment happens in Black and brown communities, low income and working families are the first to be pushed out. And so before I even thought about running this seat, I was nervous about being displaced from our community, because that just happened to me in Bronzeville. We got the Harold Washington Cultural Center, the taxes went up, and I had to move. And so after going on a 34-day hunger strike to save our neighborhood high school, then they announced where they were putting the Obama Presidential Center, and I was like, oh my God, it's like it's never going to change. And so it came from me, because you could protest, you can block elevators, you can go to jail, you can even go on hunger strikes, but we got to be at the table to change the policies. And so it's why I wound up running for the seat. All
right, we've got to be at the table. This is an old lament in the city of Chicago, and it's one, there's a reason for that lament, Jeanette Taylor. It's because people in the communities are generally not at the table. The most obvious example to me, as I look back on it, was the Olympics debacle of 2009.
That's right.
Man, at the very end, COCO, a community organization on the near south side, forced what I consider was a sort of a contrived, made-up community agreement, but that's the best they got, was like totally worthless. So I like to think we've evolved as a city from that. Do you think we have evolved?
Not enough. Not enough. We're in communities of color where the income medium is $40,000, but in the last 10 years, they collected $465 million in tickets and fines.
Yes.
So there's definitely a tale of two cities when it comes to these communities. And it's like you said, we never have a seat at the table when they're making decisions on our everyday lives.
Yeah. All right, Jeanette Taylor, explain to people who you are and how you got to this position where you were running for alderman of the 20th Ward.
So I am a 43-year-old mother of 5. I'm a nana. I got 1 grandbaby. I'm married. I'm on my 3rd marriage. I love my husband. If he acts up, I'll get married again. And I'm a longtime Southsider. I was on the local school council for 21 years.
At Mollison Elementary.
That's right.
Come on, give me credit for knowing that.
Mollison. People know Mollison very well.
Yeah.
So it's actually where Tyrone Kenner was the alderman, and he was indicted.
3rd Ward.
And Harold Washington appointed Dorothy Tillman.
That's
and
correct.
then, of course, we got Pat Dow. And so Dorothy Tillman got elected because of parents at Mollison were behind her, and she knew the community. Mm-hmm. And so I come from that legacy of seeing women in power change what happens in their communities. And so when I had to leave the 3rd Ward, I was not happy, because I was born and bred there. I went to school there. I went to Dunbar up the street there. I knew everybody in the community. And to have that stripped from me with the no say-so was hard for me. And so when I got to Woodlawn, I said to myself, I would never let this happen again. Mm-hmm. And so it's how I wind up, because if you would have asked me 2 years ago to run for office, and I'd have been like, nope. Not going to do it. Chicago politics is not friendly. It's not made for people of color. A lot of times we have folks that look like us but don't represent us. And so I was like, I can't be a part of that crap. It has to be something totally different. It has to be a real change.
All right. Now, yes, first time I interviewed you was you were for the local school council at Mollison talking about school issues. And then tell folks about this. They may have forgotten this, or many of them don't know this. There was that hunger strike that you alluded to earlier, in which about 2015, I want to say, where people on the near south side of Chicago forced Mayor Rahm, kicking and screaming, which is generally how you have to force them to do anything, if you're not a big-time developer, that is, to create the diet school, keep from closing diet. Talk about that.
Yeah, so Rahm Emanuel closed 50 schools, and we know a lot of those schools got closed in black and brown communities. And so for the 3rd and 4th ward, for us, it was Diet High School. And people don't know the history of Walter H. Diet. He was a musician who trained the best musicians on the south side of Chicago at DuSable High School. And so Diet was a high-performing middle school, and when the neighborhood started to be gentrified, they changed King into a college prep and didn't have a space to put the neighborhood kids. And so with 3 months' notice, no additional funds, they turned Diet into a high school. At that same time, they closed Robinson, they closed Inc. They had closed a lot of schools around and kind of bunched all these kids together. And so at the time, one of my mentors, G2 Brown, was involved in helping Diet because he had wound up getting on the local school council. And so Diet was the school that they just forgot about once King became a college prep. And so it was us fighting to get restorative justice. It was those young people won the ESPN Rise Up award. The school was really doing good, and then the city said, because what people don't know is it was the original site for the Obama Presidential Center. People don't talk about it. They leave that out.
Washington Park.
Exactly. They leave out that history. And so after it being decided, okay, we're going to give them their neighborhood high school, it has to go somewhere. And we wanted to go on the south side. And so I have to say that nobody is against the Obama Presidential Center. What we're against is being displaced and not being able to benefit.
Actually, you could just take nobody out of that sentence
And put me in.
I was on the losing side, as I usually am in this town, Jeanette. I just want to put that out there. It should have gone on the west side.
I agree.
It should have gone on the west side. They put it on the south side. It was a political deal.
Exactly.
And they put it in a park. Good
Exactly.
God.
Like y'all couldn't think of any. All the vacant lots on the west side, I say that too. They got enough vacant space. Like you kill the Cop Academy. Let's do that. Let's take out the Cop Academy and you can put the OPC there. I totally agree.
Forget Alderwoman. Just make her mayor right now, Jeanette Taylor. I've said this many times before. I remember the turnout at the Hyde Park High School when they had the hearing on it, and it was just one speaker after another saying, put it on the south side. I was like, well, I lost this one. But I just felt it's so unfair. You have all this vacant land on the west side. West side never gets any love, and here you have a presidential library. I mean, Woodlawn's already doing well.
Right. My biggest issue was Obama was an organizer. This the same president that took the folks from the gardens to CHA when they had lead. So it was like, why was there not an open dialect about where that center should be?
Yeah.
It was just not, and that happens too often in one of the richest cities in the country. You never ask the folks who paying more in taxes what they want to see or what's supposed to happen.
All right, so now you're speaking as an activist, all right? But in 2 weeks, you'll be sworn in as an alderwoman. And in the city of Chicago, they generally, alderwomen or aldermen are not supposed to speak like activists. Sue Garza told me, the great Sue Garza, a good friend of the show, alderwoman of the 10th Ward, that when she got elected, Mayor Rahm called her in the office. She says, I don't want you to treating this like a circus, be like a circus. This is how he talked to her. And she goes, what, do I look like a clown to you? I mean, so... but the notion is that if you're too much of an activist, you're not playing the game, you're not being responsible. So when you view coming into the city council and being an alderwoman in the city council, do you think you have to leave your activist days behind you? And okay, she's already saying no.
Hell to the no. This job is nothing but a community organizer with money. You organize around what your community wants to see. It's the same thing. What I'm used to is 2 meetings and we flip over tables. Now I got to have a couple of more meetings before I turn over the table. And I don't get to turn over the table. The community will actually get to turn over the table. So that never leaves. I'm always going to be an advocate for what's right and what's right for my community. I just am. And so that's not going to change. And I'll say this. We should never allow a mayor to be as powerful as Rahm or Daley ever again in this lifetime. Because if you think about this, and I tell people, Harold Washington set it up for us to be a rainbow coalition of folks that get together and decide what happens in our city. He came up with LSCs. He's the person that talked about TIFs. Think about some of the things that he did. He got into office because he built this multi-generational coalition of folks to say, let's get in office and let's talk about the things that we want to see as a people. And so the plan was right there. Yeah. We just didn't listen. We did, and we ran around that plan. Think about this. Even before he closed the 50 schools, people forget about the Mid-South plan to close 20 of the 22 schools. Nobody talks about that.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about Michael Scott is the person who walked around saying we're going to close these schools after they knocked down CHA. That's never a conversation. I'm the elephant that does not forget. I don't.
Michael Scott, she's alluded to, is the former board president under Mayor Daley, committed suicide.
Yep.
Some people say he didn't commit suicide. Yeah. That's a whole other story. And his son will be a colleague of yours in the Chicago City Council.
That's right.
He is the alderman of the 24th Ward. All right. Briefly, just talk about, I let you get away from the hunger strike. Just go back a little bit and talk about the hunger. What a profound moment that was in the fall of Mayor Rahm, in my humble opinion. Talk about the hunger
that was
strike.
We all can high five each other to say we helped get rid of him. So thank you, Ben. Yeah. I appreciate it. Because it was platforms like this where you're able to tell your story and people get to hear the other side. We can't pay for big radios and commercials and billboards, but we got Ben, so that's just as good. I didn't want to go on a hunger strike, to be honest. Mm-hmm. I got cookies and crackers and stuff in my bag. I eat all day long. So going on a hunger strike was not, it wasn't in my mind. And when they first, I was like, what kind of crack cocaine is my organization on? I'm not doing that. Yeah. But after just having people that you work with through coalitions saying, no, it's not going to happen. It's closed. It's a done deal. I couldn't take that back to the young people in my community that it was a done deal. I was like, we're going to fight the good fight, and whatever happens, it happens. And so being on that hunger strike, I saw a city that loved me, but I also saw a city that hate me. I did. People barbecued like feet away from us when we were on the hunger strike. People came and took pictures of us. They started harassing us. It's how we wind up staying at Operation Push, because it wasn't safe for us to sleep in front of Diet. And so that's part of the story that we never really talked about. And it was hard because it was an open space for people to come into. Remember, it's a church. It's Operation Push. Yeah. And so people would come in and they would start off knives and just disrupt and want to fight. It got really, really bad, and it was ugly. And so when it was over, I didn't want to organize anymore. I was like, I'm done. I'm done with this. We got this. I'm done. I just felt like I was in a battle that I was never going to win. And so I continued to be a part of COCO, but I did not take an organizing job. As a matter of fact, I was like, I can't do it. Emotionally, I was tore down because there are people who actually get up every day to make a policy to figure out how to destroy low income and working families, and Black and brown was to be particular. Mm-hmm. And that bothered me because that's not what I taught. That was not where I come from. I went to the neighborhood high school. I had about 4 white teachers. I didn't learn about racism until I worked downtown in the Saks Fifth Avenue building. That's not what I was taught. I was taught and raised in love. One of my favorite teachers was this teacher named Ms. Rivera, and her husband's name was Bill. And one day I came to school early and she was singing Don't Mess with Bill. And it lightened up my day because she was singing a song by some people that I love. Yeah. So that's what I was taught in, and that's what I just knew that was going to be life, and it wasn't. And so when they announced the OPC, I was just like, that's it. That I can't take it no more. Somebody got to be down there to say what people are thinking, because I don't think it's not that people don't think it. They just won't see it. And
what do you mean by the OPC?
When they announced the Obama Presidential Center was coming to Jackson Park. I was just like, that's it. That if we're not at the table, so we're not pushed out, it's going to be a problem.
So that's that when you decided to run for alderwoman?
That is. That day that so I originally went to sleep out in front of the McCormick place. Mm-hmm. I had to leave because my mother wound up going into the hospital. And so I went to the hospital with my mother. I'm the oldest. They were going to keep my mother for a couple of days. And I actually cried because I should be at home I should be at the hospital with my mother taking care of her. But I'm out here fighting and advocating for something that's common sense. And I know common sense is not common anymore. I know that. And so I was really bothered just by the whole thing. And so when folks in Woodlawn came to me and said, you should run for office. And I was like, y'all want me? Now y'all know I just say what come to mind, or I call it like it is. Yeah. Is that what y'all really want? And that's what people in the community want to see, which is why 21 people circulated petitions. 15 turned them in, 9 made the ballot. There were 2, and the community chose me to be the one.
Yeah. And all right, so now you're the alderwoman. What does this mean for the Obama Center?
It means the Obama Center got to come with the come on. We getting that. We need a community benefits. Yeah. So let me say this. A CBA ordinance is not just about the Obama Center. It's about any project that uses our TIF dollars and our space and our money, us saying we should benefit from it. Think about this. Hyde Parkers didn't want that Target in Hyde Park. You remember that conversation?
Yeah.
Joy Clendenny is a good friend of mine. Yeah. They did not want that, and they did everything they could, and Will Byrne didn't listen, and he gave it to them. What people don't know is people in Hyde Park don't shop at that Target. Everybody else shopped there. That's how they boycotted. And they had a fight about that, and it's another building that's down there that topbles over the stories. They don't like it because it doesn't look like a neighborhood like it normally looks. And so they got to come on with the come on. The University of Chicago has a 70-year history of displacing black folks in that community. Now they got to come on with the come on. So I'm an everyday person that they're going to be looking at, and the difference, they're used to dealing with the person. They got to answer to the community because I'm just the spokesperson.
Now, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I could be wrong, but I believe the actual location is in the 5th ward, which is Leslie Hairston's ward. She was just reelected in a runoff, very tough, close runoff. Are you going to be working in alliance with Leslie Hairston? Are the aldermen in that area going to be working together in this situation? Because all too often in the past, Jeanette, aldermen, they pick them off. You know, this one's in that faction, this one's over there, particularly on the south and west sides. So is there going to be some kind of unanimity of thought right here?
So what did Leslie say during the election, during the runoff? Do you know? She supports the CBA that she wasn't saying before. And so the rubber has met the road. We're all going to work together. I'm working with state, the county, because it's something that we don't normally do, but has to working together. So think about this. The Cook County Board, Brandon Johnson is working on the gang database. They doing it at the state level, and we're doing it at the city level. We can no longer work in silos. That's why the city hasn't worked for the 99%. And so we got to work together. Now, I've cussed a lot of the people at city council out. I have. I'm in a different role now, so we got to have conversations. The difference is my community will be at the table with me. There is no hiding place for any alderman now. You got to come on with the come on, or you'll be in the unemployment line with everybody else.
It's true. Have you heard from Mayor-elect Lori Lightfoot?
I actually did. She's called me twice, or her staff has called. I'm looking forward to working with her. Like I said, the organizer, not activist, organizer in me will turn over a table. The politician that I am not has to sit at the table and at least listen. And when I don't agree, I don't agree. There's going to be a lot of, just think about this. This city council has been pushed so far to the left that they might as well sing a Beyonce song. To the left, to the left. They have been pushed to the left. Yeah. And so that's great for that 99% of the city. Now we could actually do a progressive tax. Now we could talk about the LaSalle Street tax without it being, oh, no, I can't do that. No, people have spoken. Now, do you want these organizers to get together? Because people don't talk about that we're movement candidates. The movement made a lot of us. They're talking about democratic socialists. Yeah, I agree. I don't get into titles, but we push folks to the left to say, look at all of us. We can afford college for all. We can afford Medicare for all. And when you talked about who would I pick for president, it's either going to be Elizabeth or Bernie for me.
All right, now, wait, that's a perfect point to take a break. We're going to come back. I'm going to play for Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor. You didn't hear this because you didn't have the headphones on when I played it from Monroe and Atiba. It is the latest Joe Biden commercial. We're going to play a little bit and see if you still say you're going to be for Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders. We'll be right back with Jeanette Taylor. Hey, everybody. What you're about to hear are the piano stylings of Jeff Manuel. Man, listen to Jeff go. Jeff Manuel has been playing piano around Chicago for years. He's played for conventions, for celebrities, played in basement bars with blues bands. He's played at prestigious social clubs, fine restaurants, and in the intimacy of private homes. Book Jeff Manuel at jeffemanuelpianist.com. Don't worry, I'll spell his name at the end of this commercial. You know what Chicago Magazine said? They said that Jeff Manuel is, quote, as comfortable with Chopin as he is with Cole Porter. He's excellent and his performance is joyous. He offers an elegant stream of compositions and interpretations that entertains the mind but won't hurt the ears. To hear more of Jeff Manuel's work and to book Jeff for your next event, go to jeffmanuelpianist.com. I'm going to spell it out for you, people. J-E-F-F. M as in Mary, A, N as in Nancy, UELPIANIST.com. Take it away, Jeff Manuel.
Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show. Mr. Joravsky, take us home.
All right, that super cool music means we're almost at the end of another great show. And by the way, that is Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor on the keyboards playing that really mellow song. In addition to being an activist, an organizer, a hunger striker, and an alderwoman, she plays the keyboards, Dee. Did you know that?
Whoa.
Wow. Now she's playing like the organ in the background and
all of our guests are good at piano.
Yeah,
Maybe it's Chicago
amazing.
thing. I don't know.
It's amazing how good our guests are at the piano.
Oh, God.
Before I put the challenge to Jeanette Taylor on who she's going to support for president, if she can withstand a certain voice from the not-so-distant past. Dee, you got an update for us?
Absolutely. We have a few updates before we roll out of here. Everyone's talking about today's testimony from Attorney General William Barr after Special Counsel Robert Mueller called out Barr on his heavily redacted version of the Mueller report. Chairman Lindsey Graham said he plans to write a letter to Special Counsel Robert Mueller, inviting him to speak to the committee. What do you think about that?
Okay. Who said that, Graham?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, Graham. Graham, why don't you read the Mueller report and then you invite him in, okay?
All right, here we go. For 10 trivia points.
Ooh.
Oh, Ben does this to every. For 10 trivia points.
Yeah.
Which 2020 Democratic presidential candidate said that Barr should resign?
Well, I think you gave it away. Cory Booker.
Nope.
Oh.
Kamala Harris.
Oh, Kamala Harris. Okay, Kamala
That's
Harris.
right. Speaking
Senator from California.
Yep, she said that. And finally, we have some audio here from Cory Booker. Like you said, he spoke with William Barr as well. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Make sure this is good. Okay, actually. Oh, the song's ending. Perfect. Okay, I can play this. So here we go. Let me see if I can find the audio from Cory Booker. This is Cory Booker to William Barr. I'm just trying to do this on the fly here.
All right. Jeanette Taylor loves Cory Booker.
Oh, really?
No, just kidding.
I'm just going to say, don't you
She's just warming up to get and tell you what she thinks about
Yeah, I knew she didn't like him. All right, here's the Booker.
As I mentioned earlier, during a campaign, foreign governments make and foreign citizens frequently make a lot of attempts to contact different campaigns. If we were right now to go and look at, for example, Hillary Clinton's campaign during the same time frame, then you would see a lot of foreign governments, like Chinese, trying to establish.
And that's, I guess, what I'm trying to say to you, sir, is that we right now have a new normal in our country. We have a document that shows over 200 connections between a presidential campaign and a foreign adversary, sharing information that would be illegal if you did it with a super PAC. We know that. But
what information was shared?
Polling data was shared, sir. It's in the report. I can cite you the page.
With who?
And I guess my point is that your willingness to seem to brush over this and use words like the American people should be grateful with what's in this report, nobody should be grateful. Concerted efforts for deception, for misleading, inappropriate action after inappropriate action that is clear. And then on top of that, at a time that we all recognize that we had a foreign power trying to undermine our election, you, the chief law enforcement officer, not only undermines your own credibility as an independent actor when there's ongoing investigation still, using the president's own words, having it criticized by the Mueller himself. But the challenge we now have is that we are going into an area where you seem to not even be willing to be in the least bit critical in your summarizations. I believe that calls in your credibility, and again, my time is up.
That is Cory Booker, Senator from New Jersey, interrogating William Barr, the Attorney General of the United States. Barr, once again, defending President Trump. I got to tell you this, Jeanette. I don't know if you've been following what's been going on in terms of the Mueller report. I know you've been preoccupied with your own election here. We talk about it obsessively on the show.
Tell Auntie Maxine to just start impeachment.
Yeah, okay. So you're for...
Tell them just go ahead. Why are we wasting time with things that we already know, that we already brought up? Like the American people, we got other stuff to do. We got a country that we need to get together on our own. We know what he did. We know he's guilty. I need to meet the Mueller report. No, nobody did. No, It looks like nobody read it. So
I read it.
You read it. I'm sure, Ben. You're over the top like that, Ben. I'm sure.
Yeah.
But we know.
Yeah.
Just start the impeachment already. Stop wasting my time.
Yeah. I'm with you 100% on that one. Or at least start the investigation that leads to impeachment so the impeachment starts. It would be nice to start it maybe in March of 2000 as we're gearing up for the presidential campaign. So, Ari, you're not impressed with Cory Booker as a presidential candidate, Jeanette?
Hell to the no.
Okay.
Tell him to investigate. Let's talk about this charter schools that he support and that I'm pretty sure he's taking his money from. Let's have that conversation. I look at people. A lot of people talk progressive. What did you do? Is your work progressive? Are you moving in a progressive way? The things that you support, are they really helping? And New Orleans is 99% charter schools. So bad that young people don't even get a bus in front of their house. They got to walk 2 and 3 blocks from their homes to catch a bus to go to a school that's an hour away. So he could do something, but not run for president.
All right. That's Cory Booker she's alluding to. And I think you said, I don't know if you said it on the air or off mic, that you're leaning toward Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren. All right. So, Dee, let's hear what Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor has to say about the latest commercial from Grandpa Joe Biden. You got that one ready to go?
This is an extraordinary man with an extraordinary career in public service. Somebody who has devoted his entire professional life to service to this country. He revitalized American manufacturing as the head of our middle-class task force. He fought to make college more affordable. He suited up for our cancer moonshot, giving hope to millions of Americans.
The drum.
That's what you like. That's the drum gets you every time, doesn't it?
He led our It's on Us campaign against campus sexual assault.
All right, it'll fade it out a little bit. That, of course,
fade that all the way out.
is President Barack Obama. So I had a joke. I began the show talking about, I'm more of be honest, everybody knows I'm more of the Bernie, Elizabeth Warren side of the party. But when I hear Barack Obama's voice, I'm like, oh no, my hand is going toward Biden's name.
So Barack's credibility doesn't go that far because he gave us wrong. So that kills that. Yeah, can't take political advice from you. Sorry. Not sorry. I'm really not sorry. No. Hell no. Hell no. Ron was the worst thing. Ron is like that new Coke they got out that they add an orange and ginger to. It's just disgusting. It's a no. No. Oh, no.
So,
I don't know. The ginger one's pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I mean, like this nasty aftertaste. I don't like it.
I kind of agree with Jeanette Taylor on this one. So in other words, you don't feel a tug toward Joe because of Barack Obama's endorsement.
Hell to the no.
Okay, all right. Just want to see.
No.
Because we were talking about this with the Tiba and Monroe. I don't know if you heard this part. This clearly is going to be Joe Biden's selling point when the presidential primaries make their way to the South. And you know as well as all of us, Jeanette Taylor, that the black vote is key in the South. You're not going to win that Democratic nomination without getting black people to support you. And that is Joe Biden's already gearing up for that. Hey, I was Barack's vice president. You think it's going to work?
But people are still, no, because we do our homework. One thing that used to happen 11 years ago when I got into organizing is we used to have these report cards, and I'd be like, this is not school. What the hell do we need a report card? But it's to keep checks and balances of what they've done. Because during election time, what happens? We forget. We forget the crap that they've endorsed. I will never, ever, ever forgive Barack for Rahm. Ever, 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 ever. So nothing he said.
What was that all about? Why do you think Barack pushed so hard? Okay, first time he wanted to get him out of the White House because Rahm was driving everyone crazy, including Michelle Obama.
But it's like, why give him us?
Well, that's a good
Couldn't
point.
they make up an island somewhere on the ocean to give him them? Why he had to come here?
Yeah, he sent him to Chicago. Okay, but why the re-election campaign where he doubled down with the endorsement on radio? I think there may have been a TV commercial. I know there was a radio. Why do you think Barack was so eager to? Was it because of the presidential library? Was that it?
It's a lot of things. So he's from Chicago.
Who's from Chicago? Neither one of them is from Chicago.
No, well, Barack started his political career
Fair
here.
enough. Okay.
So, and you think about who is the one person that he ran against that he couldn't get?
Bobby Rush?
Exactly. And so you need that black vote. It's historically anywhere. And so it was the only way Rahm would have got ushered in if he would have got Barack support. And at that time, we loved Barack Obama. We don't care what he did. But once he gave us Rahm, that love went right out the window.
Yeah.
Because he was like the little Napoleon that came here and just... We are already one of the most segregated cities in the country. And I felt like we were starting to mend all the things that made us different. And he came and just was like, open up the floodgates to corporate America and say, do whatever you want to them. I don't care who they is. I don't care who they are. And oh, by the way, I don't care what they think. Also, you don't care that black mothers on the South Side are passing out at CPS board meetings over a high school. That's something that's a human right. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Let's see how that works for you. And so I hope that Rahm doesn't work anywhere after this. He doesn't qualify. Him getting on TV blaming black folks for Laquan McDonald and what happens in our communities. Then the kick in the face is McCarthy had the nerve to run for office. I was like, who in the hell? What in...
All right, let me ask
you this. Come to you.
It's been a while since we talked about Big Mac, Gary McCarthy. It's been a while. And for a while, I would pose this question to all my guests, my old show, the one I was unceremoniously fired from. Anyway, my old show, I'd say to him, all right, at the run, because at one point, Rahm and McCarthy were sort of in the race together. If it had come down to a runoff, Jeanette Taylor, between Rahm Emanuel and Gary Big Mac McCarthy for mayor of the city of Chicago, who would you have voted for?
I'd have wrote in Harold Washington.
I probably would have done the same thing.
We all would have wrote in Harold Washington. Harold Washington be the first mayor who is dead to be in office, because we wouldn't have voted for neither one of them.
Yeah.
We'd have been we wouldn't have let that happen. We'd have organized everybody who didn't get along. This would have been the one time that we got along and got together to make sure neither one of them were in the runoff. We would have really the best thing about Trump is he's made us put our petty difference to the side and work to make sure that we get somebody who understands how this country works and what we should be doing in politics. So that's the best thing that ever could happen with him getting into office.
All right. So have you decided who you're going to support, or are you still making up your mind about it? I know it's early. So have you decided?
Bernie.
You're going to stay with Bernie?
Of course I am. She talks about free college. I'm paying back college debt for two of my kids.
Yeah.
So I got student loans that I'm paying.
Were you a Bernie delegate last time? I don't remember.
I wasn't. I just was, I was team Bernie because everything he said was what we were thinking, that we thought nobody listened to us, and he took that around the country. And what I love about him is, I took a page out his playbook. He never changed regardless of what space he was in front of. I don't care who it was. He did not change who he was. And so I got to get behind that. I like Elizabeth. She a woman, but...
Okay, all right. Jeanette Taylor is sticking with Bernie. We have a Bernie button here, but it's not because I've decided to endorse him. Just we had a bunch of Bernie people and they gave me the Bernie button.
I think if you keep picking up that Bernie button and saying you got it, that you just won't say it out loud. So
listen, I voted for Bernie in 2016. I'd never heard a mainstream Democrat talking. He's not even a Democrat, but I'd never heard a candidate for president talking that way. Mm-hmm. So I said I have to vote for Bernie. And I really respect him for standing up and just like you said, just sticking up. When you said the same thing on Fox TV.
He did not change. Looking at all, and I'm not one person who watches those debates because they drive me nuts. Everybody dressed alike, everybody being nice, everybody saying the stuff that they really want to say something else, but they're being nice. And he stuck to his gun. He did not change what he said. And so I feel bad that they put up Hillary and not him. I think that's how we got Trump. You can't tell me any different. That's how we wind up, because it was like, okay, as a woman, she had her time.
All right, if Monroe Anderson were here, he would cut in at this point, Jeanette Taylor, and said it was the Russians who did it. I'm just speaking up for you, Monroe. You're not here, but you're gone, but not forgotten. All right, Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor, it's a blast having you on. We're going to bring you back. And again, congratulations. It was a great victory, very spirited campaign. The 20th Ward, I think, is better off with you having won. So congratulations to you. I really appreciate you coming in here. I also want to thank Atiba Buchanan and my old friend Monroe Anderson. Man, I'll tell you what, that was great talking Trump with Atiba and Monroe. We're going to bring them back. And Miles has done an outstanding job, as he does every day, our office editor, the pride and joy of Evanston, Illinois. And, of course, the man, the myth, the legend behind the boards. The ladies all love him for his body and his mind, and they call him White Lightning.
Oh, wow. Both things not true.
The pride and joy of Alton, Illinois. Dr. T, give yourself a raise. Take it out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everybody.
All right, live streamers, if you missed any of today's program, remember, you can download the Ben Joravsky Show at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites, chicago.suntimes.com, chicagoreader.com. About 4 o'clock, I'll have it downloaded. And, hey, downloaders, we live stream the program? Yeah, we do. Every Tuesday through Friday, 1 until 3 p.m. Central Time. Same websites, chicagoreader.com, chicago.suntimes.com. Find it.